What's the worst scandal to happen at your school? The 30ish theater teacher ran off with a recent grad. I was kind of pals with the student during a play the spring before the scandal, and she hosted the cast party where in retrospect, they seemed a little cozier than appropriate. As much as I'm dying for the inside scoop, I can't imagine friending her on social media and asking, so what was up with you and MR? My high school guidance counselor ducked a science teacher's wife and everyone knew about it. They got a divorce. Both teachers still work at the same school to this day, and students will never ever let it go. The story has been handed down from year to year. First week of high school, PE class. The first section was swim. Wasn't my class, but the class after. This kid was playing a game with his friends and the water who could hold their breath the longest. He was going up for air and hit head on the pointy part of the gutter, and never made it to the surface. Friends didn't notice. Teacher didn't notice. Eventually football players coming back to the locker rooms noticed. He ended up dying. Teacher was fired, although I wouldn't fully blame him as he was attending and teaching kids who didn't know how to swim or weren't strong swimmers. One adult for over 60 kids? That's the school's fault. During middle school a few kids sold weed and someone that bought some smoked it in the building, which was just stupid. The kid that sold it to him didn't want to get in trouble, so he pulled the fire alarm so people wouldn't find the kid. We all got to go home afterwards. Honestly, that's some pretty quick thinking. Obviously not very responsible, but the kid that pulled the fire alarm had some pretty sharp self-preservation instincts. The Harlem Shake was a craze. We had an RE teacher who desperately enjoyed being the popular teacher, so he got in on the craze. Invited 40 pupils from my year to his classroom at lunch and filmed his own Harlem Shake video, which in itself would have been against safeguarding rules. Thing is, he also taught sex ed, so everyone got into his cupboard before the start of the video for OSA props. The video was essentially a group of 14-year-olds throwing dildos and condoms around the room while he, of his own accord, grinded on a life-size cutout of the poop. He was suspended under investigation for half a year but surprisingly kept his job. He was a lot more professional when he returned. A teacher had an affair with the students. She was arrested and released on bail. Then a few days later she sent an email to other teachers saying it wasn't an affair but that she was actually being raped by the students and blackmailed. She even attached screenshots of texts. Later that day, she murdered her husband and committed suicide. Edit. Whoa. This has really blown up. A few people have linked articles in the comments if you are curious. When in middle school, the school forced us to give our phones to the vice principal, and they would stay there locked during the day. They got stolen. Around 120 smartphones. Edit. Changed president to principal. Please don't bully me anymore, Mayo. This locking up can backfire. One year we got together and all agreed to set an alarm on our phones for the same time, at max volume. After that they just said the phones had to be turned off, though. This kid was taking his GCSEs, important exams in England until you get older and realize they mean duck all. Whilst at an exam some kids got onto his phone, went onto his notes and found a 4,000 word document consisting of his sexual fantasies with other girls in his year. Clearly paid attention in English as there was some clever wordplay comparing his cock to some world famous landmarks. The screenshots found their way into a lot of group chats. There were about 20 odd screenshots. To put into context how long it was, and it basically acted as a vague repellent for the rest of his time at the school. An overachieving student in my year went nuts and pooped in a bag in a teacher's classroom. She also thought she could run up trees. Turns out she didn't, end up skipping a few years and going to uni early like she was predicted to do. A guy in year 10 made a statement that the more compact a group of people are, the higher the death toll would be in a shooting, and we were genuinely talking about shootings and somehow people mistook it that he was gonna do it. It was a joke and everyone was playing along at first. Cut to 11 months later, he was in year 11. The whole school knows. Rumors got out. The truth was beyond ducking twisted and changed to something different. Kids were actually scared to come in. Parents were pissed. Teachers were anxious. They had to search the kid. They kicked him out 9 days before he finished for good. Was still allowed to do exams but had to do separately from everyone else. The police were involved and it made the news, but the news article is complete fake and bullet. He also wasn't allowed to prom. This was around 4-5 years ago. He told me he was doing a lot better now. He went to a better school for 6th form. He says whilst he has moved on with his life, he will never forgive the bastards. Also, we live in England and guns are much harder to get, especially to the average person who knows nothing about how to get guns. 2 things. Both in middle school. 1. I was at home on a Sunday watching the news with my mom when all of a sudden my 6th grade teacher's mugshot showed up and it said that her and her husband were pulled over and the police found like 6 pounds of high grade weed. Lead to a search warrant for their home and they literally slept on an inflatable mattress. The whole house was a grow up. She did look like a hippie, but I don't understand. She was not mellow at all. She was rich. 2. In 8th grade, one of my friend's parents had cancer. He thought it was a good idea to bring some of their meds to school and hand them out like candy. These were strong meds. And not all of them were pain pills. At least 5 kids overdosed, 2 of them had seizures. No one died, thankfully. Edit. I know my grammar isn't the best. I'm no English major, but goddamn people. This is Reddit, not my English paper. I still get where you're coming from though. So I fixed it. Kind of. A girl in my middle school was telling people she had a hit list of people she was going to kill. Got caught with the list and was sent to a hospital for a while. She came back a few years later in high school. Edit. Seems like a lot of people had a similar occurrence in school. This was in Michigan. Sophomore year, a girl in my grade passed on a solid yellow up a hill, hit a family in a car and killed both parents and one of the kids. A week later she's back at school in a brand new pickup truck and never faced any sort of trial or anything. Her parents were extremely large farmers in the small rural town and had influence in the local court systems, I'm sure. Oh, did I mention she excitedly showed off her new truck when she came back? Duck you, Hitler. In middle school, 8th grade, early 2000s, one of the hot girls sent a couple nude pictures to her BF and it wasn't long until half the school had them. Police ended up becoming involved to make sure all copies were destroyed. In high school there was a little scandal involving the teachers and a teachers club called the Hot Tub Club. Faculty members that had hot tubs would host a weekly hot tub party with other hot tub owners. Turns out they were all getting wasted and having a swinging party every Wednesday. Somebody's spouse found out about it and there was a huge exodus of hot tub teachers my senior year. Edit. The main people involved with the photo were reprimanded but not charged. The girl had a sit down with a counselor to discuss what happened. And we all had a big assembly to discuss the consequences that could happen if people shared those kind of images. It scared a lot of kids straight. Nobody was fired from the school for being in the hot tub club. Teachers left because it was convenient timing with the opening of another high school. And there was constant babble about it. Just for clarity, this all happened in a small town in Western Canada. By the looks of my inbox, both are not uncommon occurrences. Some students broke into a local elderly reverend's home to rob him, thinking he was away. He sadly wasn't, and they proceeded to bludgeon him and his wife to death while they were sleeping with baseball bats and beer bottles. They were caught pretty quickly, and although their names legally couldn't be published because they were minors, everyone including the local media knew who committed the crime. Media caused a circus at our school for weeks, harassing any student for comment. Many did because they thought it was cool. Although these 3 kids, 13, 14, 15, were known to cause trouble, no one ever suspected they would be capable of a double homicide. Left square bracket. Edit. Included above link. My religion teacher was relocated after rumors spread that he sexually harassed a female student and hit a male student. I never found out if those rumors were true, but I mean there had to be something because teachers don't just get relocated in the middle of a school year. He was an ass. I wouldn't put it past him. In Germany it's super hard to get fired as a teacher. I think you'd need a prison sentence to actually get fired. That's why he was only relocated. My former high school got on the news for having a history teacher lie for 4 years about being a decorated war hero. Guy claimed to have not 1, but 2 Purple Hearts, among other things, and never even served a day in the military. Edit. I can't directly link to articles because of doxing, but I'm sure you can find it on Google. But it gets juicier. The truth came out because his ex-wife exposed him. sending evidence he was making it all up to local news stations in the school. Why'd she do it? The history teacher was having an affair with another teacher in my school. We had a lot of weird teachers at my school. But I think this story shows just how much the administration hardly vetted teachers. Like holy it. We also had a guidance counselor get the boot for being a racist. But that's another story that didn't get as much publicity. Back in high school, the entire football team was almost expelled because one girl gave blowjobs to every single one of the players in the locker rooms. Supposedly they were all in a circle and the girl was just going around to each person. The kicker? The girl's brother was on the team. And he let it happen. Edit. Everyone's asking. But it's my understanding that the brother didn't partake in it. But he was effectively forcing her to not stop until she was done with everyone. The team ended up not getting in any major trouble. But the girl was suspended for a good minute. There was a kid whose girlfriend brought a knife into school and planned to kill herself in the bathroom. He knew her locker combination, so he took the knife and hid it in his so she wouldn't do it and wouldn't get busted. Someone snitched on him and he got expelled for having a knife on campus. Whole town was pissed. A male gym teacher diddling some girls volleyball players. Principal got fired for threatening teachers if they didn't produce enough A's and driving a grade inflation scandal. That and the usual drugs and such. Not that scandalous. A friend's stuff kept going missing. Like books and pens. It didn't stop even after multiple complaints from him and the teachers didn't really care. His mom screamed at the teachers and the principal did her own investigation and concluded that it was a boy who stole from that guy. The principal decided to call the male student's parents to talk to them. After a year, it turns out that the thief was a girl and she yeeted the guy's stuff out the window because the guy was bullying her. We had a computer teacher football assistant coach who was just blasted all day. Had so many DUIs he had to get rides to work. But was the cousin of the superintendent so he kept his job. Let's just say that when he crashed a student's car in the parking lot because he convinced them to let him borrow it, that was the beginning of the end of it. It was a small town. The scandal is that the super tried to cover it up by trying to convince the kid to take the heat for it. To no one's surprise, the kid was not convinced. They let him stay on a super for another 2 years. When I was in 3rd grade, I believe, one of the principals at my school got arrested for disability fraud or something like that. Then when I was in the 7th grade, one of the teachers got arrested for being a pedophile. Seems like a common theme in this comment section, lol. One year in exams days they were trying to add a new method to prevent cheating where a man from the administration comes to every class before every exam and collects students' phones while sticking a sticker with a number on each phone and giving the same sticker to the student so he can get his phone after school without anyone taking someone else's phone that looks alike or something. This was working at first and a bit preventing cheating until one day some guy sneaked into our high school and came as the man who collects the phones while he wasn't. He stole the whole high school phones and went lol. This happened between my sister and brother graduating, so it would have been 1996 or 1997. The HS Ag teacher started dating a student at some point. Everyone knew about it and the parents consented. Our HS was, and is, small enough to still participate in senior trips, and the AG teacher went along as a chaperone when his GF was a senior. They shared a hotel room. When I believe the student was still technically a 17-year-old minor. At the time I remember my parents being rather put off by it, but they still hired the guy as a summer farmhand. I don't remember if he was fired or stepped down, but by the time I made it to HS we had a different ag teacher. They got married and had a child. Divorced maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Their kid goes to our HS now. I don't know why it wasn't a huge deal at the time. But no one really raised a stink or threatened to call the authorities. Today it feels like a case of grooming by a predatory farm boy. One girl literally kicked on a guy's balls so hard that he had to be hospitalized. The girl was 15. The boy was 11. And there were no actions because of lack of evidence. Freshman year, a junior accused the PE teacher of sexually assaulting her after hours in the locker room. He was put on leave and eventually got off on a technicality. Senior year, there was a freak snowstorm in April, during which the quietest and nicest stoner in our class went missing. A day later they found his car in a ditch, and a week later when the snow melted, they found his body. He'd crashed and, in his presumed high-F state, gotten out to walk for help with no coat on. He eventually found a telephone pole and sat down against it to rest and was believed to have frozen to death in the storm. Seeing his mom at her only child's funeral still haunts me. It was a couple years after I graduated, but the principal was caught giving money to gang kids and was demoted. And then a girl got caught having sex with a 40-year-old man in the school bathroom. This girl accused a teacher, who had been there for over 40 years, of sexual assault right before her entrance exam. It was a really good private school, so you needed to take a test to be considered for admission. The accusations were investigated and were found completely unfounded almost immediately. I don't know what this girl was thinking. Like maybe she thought it was a way for her to get some leverage and improve her chances of getting in or something. What made the scandal even bigger was the actions of the school. They kept him in the dark for 2 months after the investigation was completed and were refusing to allow him back because of their insurance. Then a campaign was launched by a bunch of alums and he eventually got back to teaching. Until his death a few years ago. He was a great guy too. I had him for a political theory class and he was really nice. He and his wife, aside from having children of their own, took in foster kids all the time and he did a lot of other volunteer work. Sucks he had to go through all of that because of a lie. Some highlights. 1. The chorus teacher got caught looking at Lolita porn on his school computer. 2. This kid had nudes of his ex that his friend sent to a bunch of people in school, but he was 18 and she was 14 or 15. So he got expelled and I believe he was charged with distributing illegal material. We had a whole assembly because of it where the cops came and told us they could see everything on our phones. 3. A kid in my grade and another girl, same girl as in the story above, actually had sex in the bathroom. I learned about it from my band teacher. History teacher disappeared in the night with the French teacher's wife and the other French teacher made national news for sexually abusing boys. Well, French is the language of love. My graphics teacher was married to my maths teacher, and one night he killed her during a domestic dispute. She was apparently having an affair and started taunting him about it in an argument while waving a fire poker at him. He grabbed it off her, hit her over the head and killed her. He was sent to prison for manslaughter, not murder, as the court accepted there was no premeditation. My mum was also a teacher at the school and friends with both of them, so it had a big impact on my family as well as the school. I was in 8th grade at the time, but the high school I would be attending the next year had a massive hazing scandal that made international news overnight. A group of junior girls trying to join the Powder Puffs went to play football against the seniors. Instead of playing, they got the it kicked out of them, were forced to sit in a huddle on the ground while paint and animal intestines were thrown at them, and one girl even had a bucket put over her head as it was hit with baseball bats. I heard later on she suffered permanent hearing loss. Someone recorded it. This was before smartphones, so someone had a little camcorder and released it to the media. The senior girls that were identified were suspended, many of them losing college admissions. And some parents were arrested when it was found out they supplied alcohol. When I started high school we had to endure multiple school assemblies every year about how hazing is bad, and participate in week-long seminars about being more caring and considerate of our fellow students. Eater. Holy social media response. Batman. Thank you for the awards, internet friends. For those of you that called Glenbrook North, you were very correct. Here's some more info about what happened for those of you that are curious. The school had news vans parked outside of it for weeks. The star football player was accused of raping someone in the bathroom. This ruined his life and subsequently he was in custody juvie jail and Sherwich for quite a while. All potential scholarships now gone and no hope of a career in sports. This happened when I just entered high school. I didn't know the guy but I saw him regularly. He was the school's pride and joy before the allegations. Time moves forward and it turns out that he did not abuse anyone. I'm unsure if the girl recanted her allegation or what. This was 15+ years ago, so a lot of details are hard to remember. But it was too late. The damage was done. This all happened over the course of 3 years. He ended up coming back to school. Unsure as to how or why, but I suppose he was just trying to pick up where he left off. He was just different. His face, his demeanor, everything. He was no longer the same person and it was gut-wrenching. He was an incredibly nice and fun guy before everything happened, but once he came back he was just a hardened asshole, always looking for a fight. He was conditioned to accept the street life, for lack of a better term, for a crime he didn't even commit, and even thinking about all these years later fills me with intense equal parts sadness and rage. I hope everything worked out for you, Q. My English teacher in the 11th grade was sleeping with the whole girls basketball team in exchange for straight A's. I actually failed English that year, but when that made the news my school said I didn't have to go anymore because he wasn't doing the grading properly. Everyone who had his class got a B. In 1999, 4 girls from my high school went on a 6-week-long armed robbery spree. They knocked over 4 convenience stores and a bakery before police caught them. This happened in a conservative middle-class suburb, and altogether the girls got away with less than $5,000, which might have been the most scandalous part. If they'd gone into subprime lending, I'm sure their parents would have been very proud of them. Freshman year of high school. New history teacher. He was about 35. She was a freshman. They got caught doing the deed in the parking lot before school. They got married when she turned 16. If I remember correctly, they were married for 15ish years before he passed from a heart attack. My female teacher, late 20s early 30s, hooked up with my friend before he turned 18 and became obsessed with him. He eventually stopped responding to her. We found out that the next year she gave another kid a hand job on the bus ride back from senior trip. There was an investigation, but everyone involved denied it. The school had a big assembly on sexual predators, and as far as I know she still works there, ducking predator. One weekend a couple of kids from the hockey team had a sleepover. One of the older boys from high school targeted them. He tied them up, raped them, slit their throats and set the house on fire. One of the boys survived and is an incredible person. He's the chief of the fire department and has done motivational speaking. The murderer is now out on full parole. Reading these, and I think the scandals that happened at my school are minor in comparison. The ones I know of were, a kid was busted having into the system trying to change his grades. I think there was a claim of computer addiction, but he wasn't allowed on a school computer for the rest of his time at the high school. A teacher was known for trying to pick fights with students. I called out his bullet and he was given a slap on the wrist, but he didn't try it again after that. There was a student who was accused of having a bomb that was a complete fabrication. Outcome was ridiculously blown out of proportion. The guy was a bit of an outsider and had made a duct tape top hat. Someone made a sarcastic comment about him smuggling a bomb in it. He responded in same level of sarcasm. Someone gets it in their head he has a bomb and they decide to kick him out of school because of viable threat. Had a strict dress code that if the girls broke had to change into clothes provided by the school. Turns out vice principal had a camera going in the dressing room. Some of my classmates were drug dealers and or drug addicts. They smoked or whatever they did with their drugs in the school and were therefore high during lessons. You would think they just got caught smoking in school or being high, but nope. One of the drug dealers decided to sell drugs exactly under a police's camera. The police saw him, found him, and he proceeded to tell the name of every single person involved. The dealers, the clients, and even completely innocent people. This happened in the second last year of high school, but the clients were not only from my year but even younger, like 14 years olds. The school was all over the news and the teachers did not trust us students for a very long time. Some just stopped completely and never did again. When I was in grade 9 back in 2009, there was a whole school fight that lasted the whole break into the next session. There were even 3 teachers involved. The injury rate was ridiculous. There was over 15 broken noses, 2 broken ribs, and some stretched their optical nerve. Teacher and a student were having sex in the classroom, which had a window wall. A whole bunch of people saw and watched it. There was once a fight between 2 guys. The one guy DDT the other guy 3 times on tiles. He lost his gold tooth. Someone stole it and came back a week later with the gold tooth in his mouth. Those are the first that came to mind. But a lot other stuff happened. I went to a all-boys school. I was in a rundown high school before I transferred myself. Not a weekend and already there was a girl that was allegedly raped by a guy in the same school. I still remember the day too. Walking in, hearing her run outside screaming and crying while a group of 3 guys chased down another down a hallway in hot pursuit. Members of the baseball team from my high school filmed a group sex scene in a hotel with a girl from another school while playing a tournament out of town. The father of one of the players found the tape and reported it. Some of the boys were over 18 and faced charges. The coach was forced to resign. The community was in uproar. Around the same time, a female substitute teacher was caught having physical relations with 2 or 3 male students. There were all kinds of other forms of lesser debauchery, but those are the 2 that stand out. 3 kids broke into the school at night. They proceeded to spray paint one practice field, set fire to another, and burned a bunch of equipment. Thing is, one kid had on a very recognizable pair of shoes, and they were caught a couple days later. The Poo Bandit. Someone made a huge mess in the boys' bathroom in my high school. Like full scale at horror show. The walls, the stalls, the bowls, the sinks. We had a big assembly about it and our deputy head teacher was urging whoever knew anything to come forward. The cleaners refused to go near it and they had to get industrial cleaners in suits to come in. He would not let it go. He was an ex-cop, so saw it as a detective style mystery. He'd randomly pull people out of class to interview them. He'd lose his mind in assemblies. He just would not stop. You could see even the other teachers cringe when he'd still be fixating on it 6 months on. We'd all laugh every single time he mentioned it. And of course the name the Poo Bandit was born. People would accuse their friends of it for a laugh. And one time this really sweet chunky kid got accused of it. He took it well and saw the funny side, which gained him a lot of popularity in the end. I'm 30 now, and if I ever mentioned the Poo Bandits to any single person that was in my school, they'd instantly remember and start laughing. I remember one time someone said, "I am the Poo Bandit" in assembly, and then another person stood up and said the same, and another, and another. It was one of the funniest things I've ever encountered. My person never did find the Poo Bandit. It forever remains a cold case scandal. Male science teacher and female PE teacher divorced. Not sure if they just broke up after she apparently cheated on him with a student. This may have been made up or exaggerated, but she was a massive flirt with the male students. This actually came out during my last semester there, but it had been happening for years. One of the English teachers had been having sex with a few select students every year. Most were football players. It got really weird. When I had her class, it wouldn't be out of place if a student from another class asked to go to the bathroom and just went to her room to see her. One day some kid brought her a drink from McDonald's because he was late to school and got breakfast. It only came out because there was this one girl who was in an argument with her for some reason and said something along the lines of, "That's why you duck your students." And the whole incident got brought up to the office and they interviewed everyone. Found out she'd had sex with multiple students for the past few years. Edit. I've been getting a lot of comments asking if this was in. All I'll say is that it was in Georgia. The biology teacher was having an affair with the principal. In my senior year, one of the popular football players was killed while he was driving drunk. It was obviously big news on campus, and just a few days after, the school had this giant memorial on our football field dedicated to talking about how great of a guy he was and how he'll be dearly missed. He also got like 5 consecutive pages in our yearbook dedicated to him. But not long before his death, a less popular band student had committed suicide and his death didn't receive nearly as much coverage. He didn't get a giant memorial and he didn't get mentioned in our yearbook. One girl made this giant rant about this double standard on Facebook and it went viral around our campus. Our school was split. Some people praised her for pointing it out. Others were pissed and said that what she did was inappropriate. Even one of my English teachers defended the football player. She said that his death was a tragic accident, whereas the band student chose to die, and that there's a big difference. This girl went on to leave the school because she was getting death threats from friends of the football player, and our entire campus was completely divided over this whole incident. It was in 2007, but my high school had a string of bomb threats. There was a bathroom where no cameras could see who went in or out, and someone wrote in Sharpie across one of the stall doors, "There's a bomb in the school with that day's date." The school was evacuated, and we all went home. For the next few months, there was a bomb threat seemingly every Friday. We'd be in the middle of the first or second period. Then we'd all go home. After we missed enough days, we all had to come in on several Saturdays, and the bomb threats stopped. We had a senior, male student in my high school who knocked up a freshman and a Spanish teacher within like a week of each other. I've posted it before but having a hard time finding it. Anyways, an English teacher slapped a kid in class and retired that week. A woman with severe medical issues, both physical and mental deficiencies, snuck away from her group home and hid in the broom closet of our cafeteria for 2 days. She ate all of our garlic bread, took someone's jacket, and walked out 36 hours later. This was in 2007. We didn't have cameras or anything and no one saw her go in or out. They only knew she was there because the jacket had the name of the high school, and when she was found she straight up told the police she had been hiding in there for 2 days. The group home said she had been missing for roughly a day and a half. Parents were upset obviously, but nothing changed until last year when the school shut down due to low attendance admission enrollment. Chemistry teacher spilled mercury in the lab at my high school. She tried to clean it up herself, which only further contaminated the lab, and didn't tell anyone about the spill. She was arrested and it cost the school $60,000 to have it cleaned up. Don't know what happened regarding her charges. Full stop. Was during my sophomore year. A male super senior was having sex with a female freshman in the women's restroom. Someone burned down one of our buildings. My sophomore year of high school, the gym teacher's brother gets hired as the computer teacher. Nice guy, was personable. Not as much as his brother but still. 2/3 through the year he just vanishes and most of the teachers don't want to talk about it. Eventually it gets out that when he was in college, the computer teacher got into a barroom brawl. During the brawl he took a pool ball, put it inside of a sock, swung it and smashed a guy in the head with it. The guy who get hit had permanent brain damage. The school found out midway through the year and that is why they let him go. Not my school, but the small town high school where my kids now attend. Married female office admin psychs up a female student. Goes to jail for a few years. 10 years later husbands of both women find out they have secret cell phones and have been carrying on a relationship off and on since the older one got out of prison. There was a male head of year who was gay and had sexual relations with a guy who was a minor without knowing he was a minor. He left the school but I believe did not face any legal repercussions because it was clear that he had been deceived into thinking the individual was an adult could legally give consent. The summer after I graduated, the principal was caught propositioning underage teenage male prostitutes. Couple things happened at my school. One of the pay teachers basically sexually assaulted a lot of girls while teaching gymnastics. We also had like 10 people from the same grade picked up by police because they were selling drugs in school, and I mean like a lot of drugs. Not a scandal, but my entire high school was put under lockdown because there was a rabbit squirrel on campus. 2 years ago, a senior brought in a $6 for Secret Santa. He then brought it to the senior room and essentially had a fake gangbang with it with 20 other people. Teacher sucked a kid's D during my senior year. He showed a few people the video. Then he proceeded to move to California. She still works there to this day. A 16-year-old sending nudes to a 12-year-old in a Baptist school. A string of deaths 3 years in a row was finally broken when some guy jumped out a 2-story building but lived. A girl got pregnant and told everyone the father was our English teacher. Turns out, now, no one even knows who the father is, her included. We currently have a lawsuit against our district. The nurses are claiming harassment against an intermediate principal, and the district refused to step in. Apparently the nurses caught him having an affair and told his wife. He pinned one against a wall and demanded to see her phone. In middle school, the athletics director was caught putting cameras in the girls' locker room. My history teacher blackmailed the girls who weren't doing so good on his class. He exchanged good grades for nudes. The biggest scandal there ever was in my school was on the news. Some student left a racist and homophobic note on a black gay teacher's desk. It basically said that he should be ashamed of being gay and that little black pussies shouldn't be allowed in a school. Really bad it. Reporters were all over the school. The teacher filed a report to the cops but they were never able to catch the one who did it. Girl attempted suicide in the girls' bathroom. Guy got caught having sex with a teammate in the locker room after practice. 3 girls caught snorting sugar in the bathroom. Someone was boinking a teacher but we never found out who. Teacher resigned. Someone put red hots in the hand dryer in the boys' bathroom and it caught fire. 4 years of school, 3 fire alarm pulls. Growing up in a 3k population town in the middle of ducking nowhere was crazy as hell sometimes. These events were over my 4 years of high school. Edit. 3 fire alarms due to actual fires. Sorry for not clarifying. Had a few. High school math teacher got a DUI on a tractor and was fired. Pay and CS teacher had an affair while both were married to other people. They eventually both divorced and ended up marrying each other. Accounting teacher married a student about a week after she graduated. Rumor was that they were already sleeping together when she was 16 and she was pregnant before graduation as well by the teacher. A couple bomb threats. Not that juicy, but the basketball coach gym sex ed teacher was a teacher who clearly hated working with we little it's like us. So some of us did some investigating how he came to be our phys ed teacher. Turns out he had been a basketball coach for one of the top university teams in the country just 5 blocks away from our school. But he violated ethics codes by playing players who were academically unable to play and had evidence of him talking to professors about their grades. Got sacked and our high school basketball scholarship private type jumped at the opportunity to pick up a coach banned from university leagues. Of course he'd have to run gym class and teach 13-year-olds about their changing bodies as well. Guy really lucked out. Well, there are a bunch of kids who smoke and vape in the bathrooms. But last year the physics teacher had a huge thing for underage girls. I guess the biggest scandal was when a teacher tried to kill herself and failed. My high school did a block lunch where everyone ate lunch at the same time instead of separating them into A, capital B, C lunches. Because our cafeteria couldn't fit the entire student body, it was normal for kids to be eating in the hallway, on the floor, or at tables all throughout the school. One day during lunch, unbeknownst to the staff and student body, our AP decided to hold a lockdown drill. He got on the intercom and told everyone there was an active shooter in the cafeteria in order to see how kids would react had it been a real shooting. Turned into pure anarchy. Kids calling 911. Running out of school and not returning to class after the drill was over. Kids having anxiety attacks while hiding in classrooms. Dying calls from students to parents. It was pretty bad. Should I mention how this was several days after the Parkland shooting? Edit. Grammar. Teacher sent nudes to a kid because the kids pretended to be a different person on a dating website. Teacher left. Kid was expelled. When I was in primary school, 9-year, a kid from 1st grade caught my teacher and the principal doing it in his office. There was a white kid who had a black baby mannequin to take care of for a week for some project to see if he would be a responsible parent. He hung the baby on a tree outside of the school. Expelled and made news on the local paper. Beside that, not much. Cheem student in our engineering school was making high quality meth to pay for his schooling. Got caught his senior year right before graduation. This was 10 years ago. My first day of high school. I get home after school and my mom is watching the news. A senior killed his social worker with a chainsaw and then stabbed his mom a couple times. After that he went for a walk and listened to music. They caught him all bloody and everything. Another article I found on it. https://www.lj-world.com/news/2007/grizzly_details_johnson_county_slay/. Not my current school, but an teacher was fired for cheating on his wife with ex-students. It's a shame because he just had a kid. My school recently had a TA leave and then a Snapchat of 2 6th form students in bed with him was leaked. Teacher and student were arguing about something. Student got in teacher's face. Teacher yelled at him to get out. Student said no. Teacher spat in student's face. Student pushed him against blackboard. Video ends. This class was hella annoying though. There are so many videos about them harassing the teacher. One guy rolled a cig in class next to the teacher. I think he was expelled and multiple students as well. Some students put pins into the sewing teacher's coffee. Luckily the teacher was okay, but it definitely could have been worse. So on the day ahead of a huge event that was going to happen in the auditorium of our school, someone pissed on the audio equipment in the auditorium of our school and it ended up not working anymore. The principal announced that anyone who was a witness and who could tell them who the culprit is would receive $500 away from the school. Turns out it was someone from our neighboring class, and probably 8-10 guys from that class went into the principal's office to rat him out and receive the money. Just that the majority of them who went there were just claiming to have witnessed it to receive money as well. The guy got expelled from school and had to pay for new audio equipment, which was probably at least around $3,000-4,000. Though I DK whether everyone who ratted him out ended up receiving the $500 or not. On the lighter side, the vice principal wrecked his car one night coming back from a school football game. Somehow he had managed to hit a dead cow on the side of the road. For the rest of the year he got subjected to random moos when he walked down the halls. I'm out of school now, but in high school it was discovered that a student had attempted to print the statistics exam to study before the test. This was found out in the morning when the teachers went into the math office, put more paper in the printer, and out came the exam that the stats teacher did not print. Now, cheating at my high school was punishable by expulsion, so the teachers all flipped out. This was fall exam, so we had a whole year of school assemblies where we all got talked to. I was a sophomore at the time and only seniors took stats, but they were basically trying to get anyone who knew something to talk. No one ever said a word. No one guy got in trouble. Nothing. We even talked about it after the seniors graduated and no one knew anything. So either someone is amazing at keeping secrets or the stats teacher printed it by accident and didn't realize and found in the morning because the printer ran out of paper. Had a couple weird teachers lol. 1. Came invisibly drunk every day. Was an alcoholic. Rumors say he smoked inside the classroom. My brother had him as his maths class his 5th grade year. Said it was terrible. 2. My arts teacher gave better grades if you'd show some cleavage. Rumors say he died of cancer couple years later. All alone with no wife and or children. 3. Guess I myself made it onto the list because my ex-BF didn't delete the nude he promised to delete and showed them to everyone whether they wanted to see them. I was called a slut during all my remaining 4 or 5, not quite sure, school years. Edit. To clarify, he took the picture while I was sleeping. I did not know it about until he broke off with me, because he wanted to rub it in my face, I guess. One dude ducked a teacher on a prom. BTW happy cake day. We had a lot of special needs kids in my school. Most didn't need special care, they were just thrown in normal classes, which I don't think is fair to the kids who may have needed extra help to fit in. Anyways, luckily, the kids in my school were really protective and kind to the SN kids. In my senior year, we voted for one to be the prom king and we all cheered and stuff. But anyways, there was a video going around of these 2 girls bullying one of the SN kids, and it ended up going semi-viral. The girls were receiving death threats, and the next day at school over 200 students were waiting at the entrance to bully fight them. Everyone was super nice to the kid that got bullied and the girls had to get escorted by cops for their protection. TLDR, some girls were going to get beat up because they bullied a special needs kid. Had to be escorted by police for their safety. This kid called another kid the N-word and did the Heil Hitler thing to a Jewish kid. He's a piece of it and so is his DSD. A kid was trying to get initiated into the Bloods. Part of this is committing a serious act of violence, so he brought a Glock to school and tried to kill the school resource officer. Principal tackled him the second he saw him pull out the pistol. Everybody hated the principal until that day. We were on CNN that night. Cop was having sex with a teenage high school girls. Someone spray painted on the side of the movie theater building. Then the cop was a cashier at 7/11 not long after. Someone nailed a photoshopped pic, almost real looking, of one of our teachers sucking a D along with a used condom onto the school notice board. She was pretty young compared to the rest of the teachers, and the moment she came to know about this, she started crying and went to wall for almost 3 weeks. Then, one day she comes to our class, says goodbye to us and leaves the school permanently. She was one of the best teacher in school and literally every student had a crush on her. We felt pretty bad for what happened with her. It's a shame that whoever did that was never caught. A young lady who was my classmate dated this dude. She broke off with him and he proceeded to stalk her, and then he stabbed her 50 times. I had the biggest crush on him. I guess thanks God he was in love with her. He pleaded insanity, got off and went back and graduated. Some kids didn't want to take a state mandated test, so they lit fireworks off in the bathroom. But they didn't realize how quickly they would explode, and all 3 of them got burned. The whole school had to stand outside for hours. 3 popular students from my high school were drinking and driving and speeding around town. Eventually they drove into a tree doing 120 kilometers per hour and they all died on impact. 3 pages in the yearbook, an assembly, counseling, memorial, and a day off from school for 3 guys who endangered the lives of others. About 6 months later, a student got hit by a car speeding through the school zone while he was crossing the street. This kid wasn't popular by any means, mostly kept to themselves, but he was a nice guy and was really into music and computers. Not a single mention in the yearbook, no announcement, no assembly, no counseling for the people that knew him, no memorial, nothing. It became very apparent the popularity contest among teachers and the favoritism they showed the more popular students. The principal actually had to step down the year after I graduated due to her personal interest conflicting with her professional responsibilities. In high school, a female dance teacher had a sexual relationship with a 15-year-old female student. The dance teacher and her husband had a threesome with said student and videotaped it. The husband also got a tattoo of the 15-year-old girl's initials. Pretty ducked up it. 2 kids basically blackmailed an English teacher to send them nudes. She said no multiple times that she wasn't, then told the principal she was sending nudes. Teacher got forced to resign. Everyone hated those kids. IT teacher stay behind to supervise the installation of the new IT lab. Celebrated by having a cheeky smoke. Burnt the new lab and the rest of the building down. College in the Midwest a few years ago had a minority's car vandalized with a bunch of racial slurs. Find out later that he did it himself. Which one? 1. Teacher arrested for stealing money using an ATM card he stole. 2. 2 teachers, married to other people, having a long-term affair. 3. Teacher having 2-year sexual relationship with a student. She turns 18 and graduates. He quits, divorces wife and marries her. 4. Chem teacher nearly blows up the school. Twice. 5. Health teacher baseball coach comes to work, drinks a glass full of Jack Daniels and sleeps for 2 hours daily. 6. Freshman girl caught getting spit roasted in the weight room. 7. Band teacher has all male students, no girls, sleep at his house after each out of town competition. Surprise. He's molesting them. 8. Bipolar teacher goes off her meds and goes crazy at school. Curse out class. Attacks principal and cops haul her away. Our principal had been suspected of killing his wife but not charged. We were all sure he was involved. This happened in the early 90s before the internet. There was a student teacher, an education major from university, doing her practicum in the classroom, in her early 20s, that some of the seniors ran into at the bar one night. Drinking ages 18 where I live. Lots of drinking happened. She went back to a party afterward and got photographed having a threesome with 2 of the students. Photocopies of the Polaroid flooded the school. She was gone pretty much immediately. The administration swept it all under the rug, and anyone caught with a copy of the Polaroid was threatened with expulsion. Someone ducked herself with a corn on the cob and sent pictures to other people around the school. She was 14. I went to a private high school in the States. One day the kids of the owner of the largest grocery store chain in my area were called out of class. It turned out they had a trunk full of heroin and meth to sell, and someone had told the cops. A bit late to the party, but in my high school we had 6 suicides over the course of 3 years. If I remember correctly, there was 1 week that 3 students committed suicide. 2 of them within 24 hours of each other. Our principal ended up retiring because of it. One of those was a friend of mine who had hung himself over the summer. The toughest part about it was that he had an identical twin. Had to stop myself numerous times from calling out my friend's name. When I was in high school, the geometry teacher was having sex with students. The wrestling coach was having sex with a freshman. The history teacher was keeping child pornography in his desk, and the FFA teacher was allowing students at his house, supplying them with alcohol and letting them look at pornography on his computer. Edit. This was in 2006. There were quite a few. I've posted this in another thread before. None of them are as nearly as big as some of the things already in this thread. Aside from the obvious nude pics being sent around school, the following things happened while I was at school. Had a week-long string of bomb threats. Have probably kept going if the administration didn't threaten to tack on extra school days to make up for us going home early. Student beat the choir teacher with a chair. Students killed a deer, shoved it in a hockey bag and dumped the carcass in a stairwell. School administration threatened to strip tenure and fire a teacher for not controlling the classroom after attempting to have students permanently removed from her class. We were on the news for this. Many didn't participate, including myself, but throughout the day, fire alarms were being pulled. Glass was being broken. The situation almost caused a riot. Some students of hers went to her hearing to give their side of the story and stick up for the teacher. I'm sure I'm missing quite a few, but these are the ones I remember. This was late 80s in a pretty conservative town in the south. Janitor went into the choir room at my high school and saw that a camcorder was set up on a tripod. He thought it was odd BC stuff like that was supposed to be locked up in the AV room when not in use. He rewound it a bit and watched it. Turns out the Uber Christian choir director had filmed himself dancing in front of the camera while cross-dressing. He was gone within the week. To run for student office, you had to get a petition signed by a certain number of people. There was a kid running who was liked pretty well among the school and was the only returning cabinet member. He was considered the overwhelming favorite for ASB president. However, the teacher in charge of overseeing ASB disqualified his candidacy because some of his signatures weren't legible. This is the first time something like this happened. The girl he was supposed to run against was that teacher's favorite student. I ended up writing an article for the school paper about the situation and several other similar situations that this teacher was involved in. It was blocked from being published. A teacher had an affair with a Eastern European guy she met on the internet. Long story short, she went to the guy's country to meet him, went missing for a few months and was found chopped up in bags under his kitchen sink. Jesus Christ. That is bad. Yeah, it was bleak. I showed up to school that day and there was TV cameras everywhere, but never expected something like that to be the reason why. 10th grader stabbed another student in the neck with a screwdriver because the kid took his phone. Kid had to be helicoptered to a major trauma center. We went on lockdown. One time I bought weed in the bathroom for $10. I handed the drug dealer student a $1 bill by accident and left. In less than a minute I realized what happened and chased him down and gave him the $10 bill. I didn't want to go on a helicopter ride. We had country singer Darren Norwood come to our school for an assembly. I don't know if he had a mental breakdown or what, but he was screaming at all of the students. Cussing. Telling us he was living in his car. The whole thing was crazy and got kind of scary, so a teacher pulled the fire alarm to get everyone out of there. This is my own incident that only I was exposed to. I walk into the hall. Two girls are crying. One of them shouts. And that's how they're all gonna know I have AIDS. And I did it anyways. Kept walking. Pretended to drink water. Walked right back into class. Principal divorced his wife and married an 18-year-old student who had just graduated maybe 1 or 2 months before. It was so obvious they probably had an inappropriate relationship. But nothing could be proven, I guess. It's been like 10 years now. And they're still married. He's still principal too. And has won educator awards. 3 years ago. We had 3 students die in a week. One girl killed herself in the gym. 2 brothers on the soccer team were killed in a car accident. I didn't know much about the girl. But the boys were really good kids. Around this time 2 years ago, a 6th grader was diagnosed with leukemia. And about a year later he passed away. I was good friends with his older brother. The kid was a shining light. Always cracking jokes and making puns. He loved musicals. So he got to see Hamilton before he passed. A teacher was stealing laptops from the school. Eventually he left to another school. The school didn't find out until after he had gone that it was him. Apparently, there were for him to store images of indecent underage girls on. The other school fired him. A junior took shrooms before school. Freaked out in the middle of class. Took his clothes off. And ran. We all watched our security guard chasing and eventually tackling his naked body in the middle of the courtyard. During the biggest game of the year, our rival school had a student run completely naked on the football field at halftime. Our principal, that everyone hated, had to tackle his bare ass onto the ground. Student is now a registered sex offender. There was a rogue pooper at my high school. For what seemed like months, random boys' bathrooms would be shut down because someone was cheating all over and smearing it around. Boys would check out of school to go home and take a poo. Word spread around the district. Because it was happening fairly frequently, he earned the moniker Poo Poo Pirate. It got to the point where the opposing team's crowd at football games would chant Poo Poo Pirate in unison. They eventually caught the poo perpetrator. It was one of the special ed kids. Oh. Race riot caused by a black kid wanting to get with a Hispanic kid. I'm white, so I stayed out of it. Kid got high as a kite, broke into the school through a window. Smashed the door to the classroom he broke into and cut himself somewhere. Then proceeded to rampage the school while dripping blood everywhere. He broke a ton of smart boards. And a ton of chemistry stuff, including those really expensive electronic balances. He then stole the driver's ed car and went for a joyride. 30 minutes later he returned to the school and was caught by the janitor. They had to cancel school. He was charged with 3rd-degree burglary, 3rd-degree grand larceny and 2nd-degree criminal mischief. All felonies. He is also charged with criminal tampering, criminal mischief, obstruction of governmental administration and harassment. I happen to know the detective who worked the case and he said it took him 4 hours just to photograph everything and a few hours and many trash cans to clean up all the glass. Football player died of heat stroke, Ike, just mere days before his senior year started. Haunted the hell out of the coach. One time a kid at our school brought Molotov cocktails to our school. Apparently some kid saw it in a person's locker and told a teacher or the security IDK. After that our whole school was evacuated and we had to stand in the baseball field for like an hour. Then we were later taken to a nearby church. When we were going to the church the parking lot was full of police cars, EMTs, forensics, you name it. When we were in the church everyone started freaking out and it turned out that local news station reported on the incident, then started saying it was a bomb in the school, which made everything worse. After that it turned out that it was for a WW2 project and it was filled with water. It was just a big false alarm that pissed everyone off. This happened just last year BTW. My very young, early 20s, math teacher in high school was caught being sexual with some of his students. He'd talk to them on Snapchat or text them and touch them, even during class. The odd thing is, his wife was fired from another school district only a year or two before then for doing the exact same thing with a female student. She also tried to do that to girls at my high school. There was an investigation done and the police were at the school every day for a week and the girls were questioned. If he had denied the allegations it would have gone to the courts, but he didn't. Instead he was forced to resign in the middle of the school year and his wife left too. They had to get one of the secretaries to be our substitute teacher and we got random assignments from the math textbook we never used to keep us busy. A scene from A Midsummer Night's Dream was played at a school assembly to promote the upcoming show. It was a combined performance with a girls' school. This was an all-boys private school assembly. About 900 of us, all 14-17. The lead girl is the hottest thing anyone has ever seen and she's wearing some sort of frilly paper for her fairy costume. All 900 pairs of eyes on her. Mouths open. She is stunning. And we are all girl-starved hormonal maniacs. At the end of the scene, she leaps off the stage. The frilly paper bursts asunder. and the most magnificent pair of bare breasts pop out and glint in the fiery glow of 900 salivating stares. It is literally the most wonderful thing any one of us has ever seen. She tries to cover up, but it's hopeless. Applause starts somewhere, then spreads, and then some boys begin to rise to their feet. Soon the entire assembly is giving a standing ovation as the poor girl runs from the hall clutching strands of frilly paper to her chest. A student put an orange up his bumpy spit. It didn't come out, so he went to hospital to get it out. He was never allowed to forget. When I was in middle school, all of our water fountains were being repaired. So for a few months we had to use office style water coolers and paper cups. Boys started taking a bunch of the cups, pissing on them, and then putting them back so you would drink out of a piss cup. We didn't get to use the cups after that. During the peak density of lunch hour in high school, someone released a live squirrel into the cafeteria. The screaming and yelling triggered mad panic, with people thinking it was a school shooting, and everyone evacuated the school. The squirrel ended up getting lodged behind the kitchen fryer and they had to dismantle the appliance to get it out. Nobody found out who released the squirrel even after they had a big assembly trying to shame us into giving up the guilty culprit. It was me. I have a light-hearted one. Girl was walking around, unaware her backpack was wide open. Her glass bong fell out and shattered all over the floor, directly in front of the office. Yes, the principal saw. Half of the student council was caught smoking pot before the Valentine's dance. The police were called, and they were all arrested, expelled right then and there. They had a police van out front for about 2 hours while the kids in question were processed. Once that was over, the remaining student council members still had to set up everything for the dance, only for nobody to show up. They accidentally backed a tractor through a gas main and had to evacuate in the middle of the day. But this being a Nick suburb just post 9/11, kids were jumping out windows and running away rather than waiting to find out what happened. Our school was right next to a smaller sized airport. For one of our annual parties, the student body decided to fill the courtyard with hundreds of full-sized inflatable beach gonads to create a giant ball pit. And then the wind kicked up and blew them all onto the runways next door, shutting the airport down for at least 12 hours. We weren't allowed to have inflatable things anymore. A 7th grader allegedly ran away from school because his parents were getting a divorce and it was too overwhelming for him. He literally left during lunch and no one stopped him. The office called a fire drill to look for him, but there was no luck. It really freaked out a ton of people and some of his friends started crying. He was found later that evening. My school was doing construction and they didn't check that the photography classroom way in the basement was empty before breaking through the wall. My school was pretty boring. Two kids got in a fight. One bashed the other's head into a brick wall. Police and ambulance called. Another is a gun threat was posted over social media and our school went on lockdown. Metal detectors were used the next day. The person responsible was arrested and it turns out it was a joke. Not very funny. In college, an international student held up a building with a backpack that he claimed had a gum and anthrax in it. Turns out it was just a baggie of powdered sugar. He was arrested and deported. All because he didn't get an A. Students celebrate the anniversary by eating powdered donuts. Homeschooled, so pretty uneventful. But there was drama in the 2nd grade when I found the answer sheet. But my dumbass didn't realize that answers will vary wasn't the answer to one of the questions and I got caught. A kid set off firecrackers in the school. 3 days after a major school shooting. Everyone started freaking out. You learned who the good teachers and the bad ones were. The good ones were yanking kids inside and trying to help. The bad ones were locking the doors to their empty classrooms and leaving students in the halls. The panic caused kids in the halls to basically stampede, which caused some students to fall and get trampled. I know one girl that got her arm broken or her leg. I can't really remember anymore. They found the kid responsible for it. It turns out that he was a senior that had no possible chance of graduating, and he decided to be innocent and set off the firecrackers. He got arrested and charged for setting off a bomb in school. Kiss played at my high school. Someone at our school stole the key to the Swedish national test in English. They sold it online and someone found out. 3 mkr of developing, testing and printing tests down the drain. In school, the school psychologist did a test and told my mom I'm emotional unfit to cope with the real world. A few years after he was on the news, come to find out he didn't have his degrees. The school didn't bother to verify them and he was only looked into because of guess why? Any takers? He was being inappropriate with female students. They strip searched a Palestinian girl because she was putting up Free Palestine stickers throughout the school. The faculty confiscated her shoes. They said was to check and see if she had hidden the stickers in there. But really it was because this incident was a few days after that shoe bomber guy and they didn't want her blowing up her feet. That just sounds like straight up racism. Well, from freshman to senior year we had a few that older seniors we're well aware of, like the freshman who tried selling a gum to kid being abused, the biggest event at the school. The girl who got held crossing a highway across the street from the school. The girl who was found dead in a ditch about half a mile away from the school. The kid who got dragged by a car like 30 feet cause he was trying to hang onto it and skateboard then walked home. The girl who slashed another girl with a steak knife over a boy. How else to ruin your life? The teacher who was having sexual intercourse with a couple students, and the first story I remember from there was my first day of freshman year. My teacher didn't show cause the night before he was arrested for driving drunk on the wrong way of the highway. Senior prank, they got 200 stink gums and had to release early because of the smell. New teacher was chaperoning a trip abroad to Costa Rica. Got drunk with the students and had sex with one in the hotel pool. The trip was cancelled early and the teacher fired. The school tried to cover it up but everyone knew about it before they were all back on us soil. Turns out my school has been covering up shit like this for decades. Last year during the last week of school, someone escaped the mental hospital, which was very nearby. Apparently he had a gun. Maybe? Lots of rumors. At the same time, a few of the boys in my grade took off the orange band on toy gums and were waving it out their car window. When I heard that part I was confused. Because they were in the same class as me, it was testing finals week. After that, nobody could leave and had to stay a few extra hours even though everyone was done testing. There are still rumors floating around. And nobody is still sure what happened. Myself and 2 friends were expelled for smuggling hash that we got on a school trip to Amsterdam. And selling it. Long time ago. But still the main incident that follows that school's name. Girl allegedly had a gangbang with 5 guys from the wrestling and football teams. It was filmed by another dude who was there. 2 of the teachers confirmed it. Several students ceased to have seen it. Later on that year, her pic was featured as most memorable, along with a TV border around her. A sophomore girl got shot in the head on a setup posted as a trade for a knife. Turns out the 2 guys that were supposed to be giving the knife just wanted to shoot her for the hell of it, so when she was turned around they shot her in the head in a ditch and left her for dead. She was recovered and was in a coma for a long while. They were caught. Teacher 1 was driving student to teacher 2's house so they could duck and teacher 1 knew about it. Teacher 1 still works at our school and takes students on school trips. Back in the day that they had those huge TV sets that you'd roll into classrooms. One of them tipped over and fell on top of a 2nd grader. It was in a storage room. And no one discovered that she was missing until later in the day when a teacher came out screaming and sobbing, carrying her corpse, at this time pretty stiff and stuck in a pose like she was writhing, into the schoolyard. We all saw. No one really forgot. A group of teachers were having sex with each other. One of them was having sex with students too. One of those students came back to the school as a teacher a few years later. They were all, "Oh yeah, I had sex with that teacher" as a student. The current students found out and the teacher was moved to another school over it. There was a brother and sister in my high school who were killed in a double murder suicide by their own father. It was heartbreaking and almost dreamlike. But there was a bunch of conspiracies around it because he wrote some books denouncing 9/11 and the FBI were known to be in town because a jewelry store got broken into, which already seemed sketchy. It was all absolutely crazy. The soccer coach was sleeping with 4 of the soccer players, 16-18 years old, 2 of them being other teachers' daughters. They had it completely secret until his wife found a journal where wrote about each time he slept with each girl on the team. At the end of the school day we walked out and there was 4-5 cop cars and they were walking him out of his building in cuffs. If I remember correctly, the girls didn't have to come back to school for the rest of the school year. It was close to the end anyway. Everyone found out their names pretty quickly. Biggest scandal at that school in decades. All these pedophile teacher stories, and all my high school did was start a rumor a girl named Janie didn't have a butthole. Someone put gear oil in the machine shop teacher's coffee. Damn near killed him. This was a year or 2 after I graduated. But there was this one teacher at my high school who was fired for, in no particular order of weirdness, buying booze for students, smoking weed with students, buying weed for students, buying weed from students, writing a paper for a student for a different class in exchange for weed, driving certain students who skipped school to a bar in a different city several hours away, sending a student a completely unsolicited text that said, "I've never wanted to cheat with anyone in my life, but I want to with you," offering to buy a student a $500 knife and give it to him at school, explaining it thus, "If I can walk around campus with marijuana on me, you can walk around with a shipping box with a knife in it. Kiddo, you can't walk around campus with marijuana on you." She was the scripture teacher. That position, at that school, at least when I was there, was as cursed as the defense against the dark arts job at Hogwarts. A few years ago I had the TV on in the background with a true crime show going. Wasn't paying much attention to it until I heard the line, "There wasn't much else for high school kids to do in less than wife's hometown more than during less than year wife would have been in high school more than." Started paying attention, and it's covering some kind of 6 ring that ended with the murder of one of the participants. Brought it up with my wife and she was like, "What? I don't remember that." Oh, right, that incident. My statistics teacher got fired when he accidentally turned on the projector to show his Mac screen to the whole class and a porn site was opened. I went to a charter school in PA. The founder stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from the school district and used it for himself. In the back of the school, he built an apartment with a stripper pole, but it was hidden in the school. You could only get to it through one door hidden in a closet. He was eventually caught stealing money and he committed suicide. 2 students coordinated jerking off in English class. There was this younger, smocking hot female teacher at my high school. Her BF was on The Real World, and she did a visit on the show wearing a super skimpy bikini and talking about her BFSD. Everyone had already had a crush on her, but this pushed it over the edge. I don't know if she quit teaching, but I don't remember seeing her around school after that year. Our history teacher made multiple sexual remarks to a female classmate. One time he pulled her shirt up because her cleavage was distracting. He retired not long after that. One of the girls were ducking the IT admin. She was 16-17 when that started. Heard an update from an old classmate nearly 20 years later, and not only have they stayed together, they're married, got 3 kids and live the upper middle class suburban dream life. One of our history teachers had been a stripper before becoming a teacher. This was years earlier. She was a stripper before she even went to college to get her teaching degree. We found out about this because the father of one of my classmates had been a regular customer of hers and recognized her at a student-teacher conference. He told his son, who obviously told the entire school. A student was having sex with many girls in the gym locker room or music practice rooms. This was discovered due to an explosion in STD rates. I don't recall if it was chlamydia or gonorrhea. Yuck. Principal sexually harassed a teacher. Gym teacher was fired for being too close to female students. I couldn't get any more details, but I did witness his strange behavior towards females in the class many times. One girl had a key to his office. Students having sex in bathroom second theater. Nobody ever got caught in the theater as far as I know. There was also a stabbing my freshman year. I didn't witness that itself, but I was in the hallway that it happened on and witnessed the loud and panicked crowd. Edit. For any more people wondering if we went to the same high school, I went to high school in Tennessee. We had a charity thing in high school where you'd raise money for cancer. The amount being raised was shown on a thermometer and every limit would force a teacher to shave their head. On the very top was this French teacher. Anyways, the initiative was due to finish after lunch recess. A bunch of people are in gym shaving their heads and trying to raise money. Bills are flying down from the bleachers and we raised just enough money right at the bell. The French teacher was not down and ran away, causing all the students to chase her into the bathroom, banging on the door and it. She soon after had a bit of a mental breakdown. Someone at school found out her lava life profile and she left. Also, some student stole all the money raised in the initiative from the gym. Our science teacher was a porn star in a past life. Someone in the school found a video she was in his dad's porn stash. It was a huge scandal in our conservative town. She was let go, which sucked because she was really an excellent teacher. It became a national news story. She was on Dr. Phil about it. Despite numerous campaigns by the students, she was never hired back. This is totally ducked up. Two senior boys pinned a younger kid down on a pool table, pulled his shorts down and hammered a giant glue stick up his ass with a hockey stick. Needless to say, there were a few expulsions. A kid apparently jacked off in the back of the class. Someone apparently got it on their phone. Cops came. Person who recorded it got charged. He sat where I did, but in a different class period. So I switched my chair for a new, less nutty chair. Turns out, every other class before me had also switched the chair, so we couldn't find the nut chair. We even made black lights with our phones to look for the chair. It was great. The football star at my high school was accused of sexually assaulting a 4-year-old child and went to jail for it based off very little evidence. He was sentenced to 25 years. It was my junior year, and it was his senior year. He had a full ride scholarship to play football and he, along with everyone else, really thought he'd make it to the NFL. He served 3 years of that sentence when the county's new DA looked over his case and saw that there was basically no evidence. So he was released. This was in summer 2017 and he was officially exonerated last year. Turns out it was his best friend, who looked just like him and lived with him. Who did it? Dude is doing really well now. His girlfriend stuck with him through the whole thing and they're married now. There's actually a documentary on Showtime about it that just came out. A bunch of football players went to town on a girl in the auditorium. That was the rumor anyway. The other NSFW scandal is a guy found out his girlfriend was pregnant, so he decided to solve this by tying her to a chair and beating her to death with a bat. I wish that was a rumor. Girls track coach gave members of the girls track team rides home and massages. Got escorted out of the school in cuffs one day. Either our vice principal was smashing a senior with sexually assaulting another teacher, and when the story got out to the students, the vice principal tried to break into her room to confront her and she ended up passing out from a panic attack. Or, two senior girls were having sex with the town sheriff and his wife, and during a summer morning after leaving the sheriff's house completely wasted on booze, they swerved into oncoming traffic, killing a man on the way to school. Both girls have kids and are married and never showed a glimpse of regret or change of lifestyle after the crash. It was deputy, not sheriff. Sorry. My first day of 9th grade, a senior took a hit of acid. Took his clothes off, ran around naked yelling, "I want to see everyone. I want to see everyone." He was finally chilled out and they got a robe on him. Called his folks. Maybe he was suspended. Same him a few weeks later. 3 years after that he came to our house to install cable TV. My dad always kept some cheap beer around for service people and the like. I gave him and his co-worker and said we didn't have any LSD. He laughed his ass off and said, "That's probably a good thing." We had a football coach ducking one of the cheerleaders. I was so blind to it all. He was my positional coaches and I had respect for him, so I never believed it. He never talked about it and I was friends with that cheerleader and she always denied it. 2 years after graduation they got married because she was already pregnant with their second child. She dropped out of college her first semester and became a stay-at-home mom. Her Facebook page now is just really sad. It has been almost 16 years since we graduated and she still seems miserable. All her dreams just vanished and she is still married to that coach who is getting older and fatter. He is over 60 and she is in her 30s. The girlfriend of my best friend was molested one day. It didn't take long for it to get around school. When the police got to investigating the whole situation and after about a week the molester disappeared from school for multiple months. He came back as a registered sex offender. The molester was someone in our class and when my best friend found out he took matters into his own. Molester ended up with a broken nose. Not sexual, but someone took a huge hit in one of the bathroom sinks. Very much abnormally large, especially given that it was in a sink. It was basically a mountain of it and at the very top someone put a perfectly ripe strawberry. My friend grabbed my phone and sent a D to the prom chat. My homeroom teacher in 6th grade was caught having sex with a 12th grader. We had this weird science teacher. He was your standard mid-50s creep, but he had a really bad stroke or something that required part of his skull to be removed, so he had this huge seam on his head from the metal plate. He used to make girls stay behind after class and watch the lab tables while watching them. It happened to me a couple times, but I was never more than just a bit creeped out. The next year, he vanished very quietly. Also, someone started a preposterous rumor that I was pregnant. My mom was 14 when she got pregnant with me and promised to make my life a living hell if I ever got pregnant as a teen. So that ruined the rest of my teenage years with her. Thanks high school. Worst years of my life so far. Not even a scandal, just a widely accepted rumor. English teacher was purported to select one male per senior class to try and woo and sleep with. My friend claimed his older brother was that year's selection, prodding him to strive to do the same. Unfortunately for him, another, uninterested, buddy actually was, resulting in her petting his arm, giggling at his jokes, bending over in front of him, etc. She left to become a principal at a different district a few years later. Girl 1 sends nudes to Girl 2's boyfriend. Girl 2 prints the nudes out and puts them in every unlocked locker and on all of the walls in the school. A teacher who was always suspected of having inappropriate relationships with students managed to get on the wrong plane with a student during the senior trip. They ended up in Greece when everyone else was in Italy. 9 months later she had a baby but didn't tell anyone who the father was. An English teacher would make out with a student during his planning period while his wife was teaching classes next door. After school, he would make excuses to his wife about having to stay late at school and meet the student at hotel rooms. He was led out of the school in handcuffs in front of the entire school. Funny enough, the cops gave him the opportunity to go out the back door of the school and not make a scene, but he refused. I actually witnessed this. So, 2 students with mental disabilities went to the toilet together. Exactly what you think happened. The teachers forced the door open to stop them. End result of this. The parents of both students each argued that neither had the capacity to give consent. Both students were sent to court on abuse charges against each other. Of course it was their parents' choice to do this. Charges were dismissed in the end though, but that was one hell of a month for everyone in the know. Used to run into our IT tech at illegal raves doing coke a fair bit. To be 16 again. New teacher came in to teach 10th grade chemistry. She was about 24 years old and super friendly with students. Halfway through the school year one of her students ducked her, taped it and of course, showed the whole school. Students got caught ducking behind the theater by the vice principal. He went on the PA system to remind all students to refrain from doing anything inappropriate while at school or in the theater room. You could hear the entire school erupt in ducking laughter. No one knew who it was though. Someone ate on the toilet cover and masturbated over a picture of our English teacher. Not high school, but we had a teacher sleep with a mentally disabled kid under 13. One of the paid teachers was very not secretly in a relationship with one of the upper 6th girls, US senior. The day after she left school he left his missus and he and the girl shacked up and later married. Last I looked they were still happily married with a couple of kids. 2 girls were caught having fun in the women bathroom. New question. Teachers of Reddit. How hard is it to not duck the students? Let's see. The greasy hair comb-over principal was banging the young counselor during school in the office, forgot to close the blinds, was seen by half the school, and his wife who was a paid teacher. My high school friend who got pregnant who was propositioned by the football coach as it doesn't matter now you're already knocked up. One day we all came to school and the front office which was surrounded by glass was shattered and we all just assumed some asshole vandalizing the school. A couple of weeks later, the police came and arrested our principal and one of the vice principals. No one knew why. Turns out that one of our other vice principals, super young dude maybe early 30s, had made out with a girl in my class, seniors, was 17, who was also the daughter of the varsity football coach. She was dating my friend's older brother, straight degenerate druggie, and the older brother found out and came and threw a rock at the glass building. Our principal and vice principal knew and covered it up so they got arrested. Eventually the guilt VP was charged and sentenced to a couple of years in San Quentin. He now has a YouTube channel and came out with a book about his time in prison. Edit. Couple of months in SQ. Not years. Phones got banned because a couple had sex at school and they filmed it with their phones. Pay teacher had sex with a student in the school. This happened after I graduated but a student attacked another student with a frying pan. There weren't any frying pans in the school so it had to be a premeditated frying pan attack. This kid titty ducked this girl in the quad after giving her way too much. She had a seizure during the whole thing. Was awful. Somebody pooped in a Pringles can and hid it in the bathroom. An English teacher had sex with a student as soon as she turned 18 and she went on to become a Victoria's Secret model. He had a reputation for doing so every few years. He only got fired last year. A girl got gangbanged on office chair and everyone spun it around for a turn. My math teacher literally woke up one day, murdered his wife, arranged things so it looked like a suicide, emptied her bank account and went on to have a normal teaching day at school. We even had a mass, Catholic school, for her weeks later and he faked grief through it all. We found out months later during school recess. In the auditorium there was this obvious hole in the wall, and when I say hole I mean like a 10 foot by 10 feet square, but it was way up by the roof and back behind the stage curtains. One day my friend said she saw the janitor climbing down from it on a ladder and she saw where he put the ladder. After school we went back there and sure enough she went straight to the ladder. We climbed up to the hole and there was a pretty big ledge in the hole with a twin-sized mattress covered in stains and a rack of old Playboys and it. I was very concerned about the janitor after this. One kid got caught masturbating in science class, then a week later got caught again in the same class. His best friend, freshman year, would go to the bathroom every day and be in there forever. Eventually our teacher sent someone to check on him and he comes back and straight tells everyone that he was in there sticking his D in a hole in the wall. Not like a glory hole but a hole in the concrete wall that a toilet paper roll got ripped out of and didn't have an opening, just jagged rock. One girl sent nudes that got around the whole school. One girl had a video of herself sticking a Coke bottle up herself sent around. And one girl a video of her fisting herself that got sent around. But my favorite was this sophomore girl got caught giving her BF a blowjob at school the day before prom. She got expelled and he almost got arrested because he was 18. They broke up and we ended up dating a couple years later. We've been married 7 years now. Kids had sex on a bus. Led to a lot of news beyond our immediate area. There was also potentially a graphic tee made that said less than school reg and more than know how to ride the bus. A jock we went to school with did a gay porn video. This was the early 2000s in a rural town. Homophobia was prevalent. For some reason he told his baseball teammates about the video. He came to school 2 more times and then disappeared. His family moved a few weeks later. Nobody in my high school class has heard or seen him since. Now, on the one hand I can appreciate that he just wanted to get it over with and let the world know. Maybe he was gay and figured making a few $1,000s for coming out was worth it. On the other, if he hadn't told anybody and somebody in my town came across this gay porn video, who are they going to tell? Ultimately I feel bad that my hometown is so backwards. The Chinese exchange students had a lesbian orgy in the woman's bathroom during homecoming. School cop was on patrol one night, pulled over a 18-year-old senior he knew for speeding. Don't know who initiated it, but they ended up ducking in the backseat of his cruiser and she got off. We all found out when she was telling her BFF. The BFF's mom overheard and told the police department. His punishment? Told he could no longer be a school resource officer. This was back in like 0608. He was fired from his job this past year for failing to go to a 911 suicide call and preventing a fellow officer from going to it for almost 30 minutes. Oh, he also told the guy, whose house the woman was found died in, that he was headed there. Link to the article about him being fired. Edit. Spelling. Ain't public education grand? Dubbed the urinator, they kept finding urine puddles in the school hallways, stairwells, and the handicap elevator. The school had cameras everywhere, but they never saw someone just peeing in the hallway. No one knew how it kept happening without someone being caught. Turns out someone was peeing in a Gatorade bottle, and in between classes when halls were full they would just randomly spill it somewhere and no one around them noticed. The method only got found out when the bottle with some leftovers was found in a trash. But they still never found who actually was doing it. It came out a year after I graduated, but the high school band director, short creepy dude in his 30s, had been involved with numerous male students. Only one came forward, a 12-year-old, and he ended up going to prison for 12 years. Got out recently according to the Sex Offender Registry. Based on the picture on there, if he wasn't a bottom before prison, he is now. The mental thing is that he was the toast of all the parents and community for years, and people were holding rallies and donation drives. Nobody speaks about it now. Completely unrelated. A kid, whose father was a school board member. I had a bunch of classes, and played sports, with had a hit list he made when we were in middle school. It was a whole thing, with police and news reports. Months later, he's back. On the plus side, I wasn't on the list because you're always nice and cool. Yeah, me. Why is this relevant? Because his school board member father was charged a few years later with molesting a whole bunch of boys. He ended up shooting himself right before trial. I always assumed that there was some connection there. Sad really. Some loser from my school posted a question aimed at high schoolers about sex so he could jerk off to the answers. A couple ducked in the bathroom before an assembly, and one of the teachers heard. He subtly mentioned it later at the assembly just to find out whose faces got red. They were suspended. Kid drank full bottle of whiskey during history class and got into an alcoholic coma. It may be false since I only heard of it and I haven't witnessed it. What was the incident at your school? Our business club was so enterprising they started counterfeiting money, resulting in the Secret Service showing up in class. Someone asks me, did you hear about the bombs going off in school today? No, moron. There aren't bombs going off in our school. As I say this, over the intercom we hear, please evacuate the school immediately and avoid all trash cans during your exit. Some seniors had put dry ice bombs in the big metal trash cans. We come out to police, fire trucks and bomb squads pulling up. One bomb goes off and the trash can shoots 20 feet in air. No one was injured. The seniors didn't get to participate in graduation. Kid kept crapping in his hand and writing messages on the bathroom wall with it. You'd be in class and hear the North Corridor bathroom on the second floor is now off limits and you knew. Edit. Yes. Your school had one too. Yes, you gave him a nickname. Yes, it may be a sign of abuse. Either the time a cop shot a man with a gun as a bunch of students watched, or the time some moron spray painted there is a bomb in the gym on the outside wall. Bomb threat jokes were all the rage. My freshman year of high school, 3 deer broke a window and ran around inside the school until a teacher chased them out. That teacher a legend. We had a chicken pen at our school. Big fence surrounded many chickens. We come to school one morning, and all the chickens have been beheaded, as well as a couple birds which have been stoned to death. In grade 8 my buddy Vinny brought a pregnant rat to school and it spawned a bunch of rat babies in his locker. There were rats everywhere that year. Easter egg hunt. In 1998. I think 5 people were injured. One had to be taken by helicopter to the hospital. I was never really sure of the specifics, but apparently some of the parents were trying to cheat and find eggs for their kids. instead of letting the kids do it themselves. This led to arguments and things got out of hand. Fortunately, no one died. And the school didn't ban Easter egg hunts. It just banned parents from it. The Great Easter Egg Hunt of '98. The mentally disabled kid went into an absolute rampage in lesson over someone sitting in his seat, and the teacher had to get everyone out of the room and lock him in there whilst support staff were called to come get him. Unfortunately, it was a science lesson and he had lots of expensive stuff to throw around whilst he was in there. Thousands of pounds worth of damage. That last line made me think of a bus full of kids going to fat camp crashing into something. Someone was making a meth lab in their locker. Two guys were smoking pot in a bathroom and somehow managed to set a toilet on fire. In elementary school, the incident was when this kid named Alex stuffed paper towels into a soap dispenser and lit it on fire in the bathroom. The whole school was evacuated and major sheet was to follow. In middle school, the incident was a well-liked kid that most of us thought had it all decided to commit suicide. It was very devastating to so many of us in the school and really brought home how you never really know what struggles the kid next to you is going through. In high school, the incident was that a semi-popular kid was regularly getting it on with the teacher. It wasn't well known, but was whispered about. A friend of my brother's leveraged this to his advantage, telling the teacher on the day of the final exam, "I think I got an A in this class because I know about you and my friend. And I don't think you want anyone else to know." He got the A. A girl got pregnant on the 8th grade trip to DC. Was your school from Long Island? It was. We had some older chap from town crawl into the ductwork and peer through the vents into the girls' locker room. That's insane. Why did you guys have him do that? One of the math teachers was stealing those TI-83/84 calculators and selling them on eBay. In his defense, teachers don't get paid enough to have morals. Someone set Mickey Mouse's tail on fire at Disneyland during a senior trip back in the 80s and got the school banned for like 20 years. My senior was the first time we were able to go back for grad night. Kid that sat behind me in math class brought a gun to school. Didn't shoot anybody. Not really sure if he intended to, but got caught after bragging about it. Something similar happened at my school Monday. This kid brought a knife with him, a pocket knife I think, and was talking about it with his friends. Some of which I overheard. Before I get the chance to tell a teacher, the principal came into class, walked him out of the room, and nobody's seen him since. We had 3 gun threats my freshman year. First one was some angsty sheet. And the last 2 were just because we got out of class all day with the first. Specifically, that first one was legendary. The school had no plans or preparation for this event. So we all milled around the athletic field for 6 ducking hours. School was in southern Maine. Sexting ring of 120 girls' pictures being passed around all the guys at school. Happened twice. 0 arrests as it was a rich private school and parents got involved. Also the teacher making people answer weird questions their classmates asked. Or the time a kid showed up in such a drugged up state that he passed out in class. Had to be rushed to the hospital. Was on an IV drip for a while and tested positive for 7 out of the 8 substances tested for. Didn't get suspended or kicked out. He was allowed to take his exams early and finish up about a month before everyone else. We had a mock car crash, where the local fire department and other emergency services simulated what happened at a car crash to drive home the point of driving sober etc after prom and whatnot. We had the whole school watching. Over 1,000 kids. One of the kids in my grade, early in the morning, took a sheet in a bag and smeared it all over the windshield of the car. Later that day, when they unveiled the car from under a tarp, the sheet was everywhere and the whole crowd broke out into laughter. There were a few, but I think the worst one was when the senior class prank, vandalism, was to put We Digress Kriller on the football field to create a giant dong. It could be seen on Google Earth for years. It wasn't the class I was in. Just that it was a senior class. Full stop. A teacher got a student pregnant. He only had to change schools though because she was 16 already. Some students mixed the wrong chemicals in chemistry and the whole building couldn't be entered for a week. What country is this in? In America, one of the partners is in a position of authority over the other. The age of consent become 21. The catch-22 to hate crime. Kid 1 got the shit beat out of him in a fight that he picked. His rich parents sued the other kid in the school citing that it was a hate crime because Kid 1 was gay. Well, it all came out that mom and stepdad were suing mostly because the alimony settlement from mom's first marriage was drying up. We're talking at least 5 mil. They figured going the hate crime route just about guaranteed a big payout from the school district. It also came out that Kid 1's father was a multimillionaire and an extreme homophobe. So, Kid either had to admit to being gay and be disowned by his millionaire father, no chance at the inheritance, or throw his mother under the bus and proclaim his heterosexuality. My junior year of high school was like a damn reality TV show. This blonde girl had 2 guys crushing on her. She played them off against each other for all they were worth, reveling in the attention. They really disliked each other, so she encouraged them to fight, shirtless at her suggestion. One guy ended up badly beating the other. He broke his nose, fractured his cheekbone and cracked a rib. The guy on the ground was yelling for help. People had to pull him away from the guy before he healed him. Senior prank 2009. Someone put some fish fillets up in the ceiling of the administration building. Except they did it before Christmas break instead of summer, so it would rot for a week and then all the school staff would smell it when they got back. It took them months to figure it out since no one came forward to claim their deed. All the while about a third of the entire school student body has been suffering and breathing this dead fish aroma since the administration building is half offices, half arts department and classrooms. It was terrible and the stench still haunts me. Senior pranks aren't even a thing at our school, Mio. My junior year of high school. Some girl got in a fight with another girl over a boy. They fought in the cafeteria and their friends joined and it quickly turned into a riot. Police came. One of the girls got tasered and parents were called. The kicker is all of the parents then went across the street to the gas station and started fighting before being arrested. High school teacher started to become obsessed with one of my friends. He started calling her at all hours of the night, completely drunk, asking her to come over etc. Eventually she had to call the police. Fast forward a couple days later. 3-4 police officers roll up on this teacher during one of his classes and arrest him in front of everyone. He was never seen again. The super popular elementary school science teacher getting arrested for child pornography. Everyone loved him and also I'm pretty sure his daughter was going to that school at the time. Very unpopular guy tells very popular girl he wanted to be her vibrator. Stayed very unpopular after that. Yeah, I can't see that doing him any favors in the popularity department. It could have went one of 2 ways though. There is always that off chance someone hears it and thinks it's hilarious and then he's known for that for the rest of his school career. Someone wrote on a bathroom wall "School go boom on date." They evacuated the school. Had the police show up. Searched everywhere for bombs. Didn't find shit and nothing blew up. Edited for you ducking meme lords. Dude ducked a goat his senior year. His catchphrase all through HS was, "I'm such a redneck. I duck a goat." Well, he proved it. History teacher shagged a 6th former on one of the classroom tables. We all knew which room, but not which table. Here's a hint, it was all of them. This is why we leaned back in our chairs, haha. There was a riot. A bunch of kids painted loads of graffiti on the wall of the main building insulting the headmaster and various other teachers. So the school cancelled our graduation party. Consequently, once everyone's exams were finished, half the year, that is, about 100 people, went to various pubs and got drunk. Then some rabble-rousing took place and we all convened on the school to demand our party back. Things were thrown. Windows were broken. The gates were shut. The police arrived. It made the newspapers, etc. You can go back over our school's exam statistics and see the percentage of pupils who got good grades in their A-levels, English high school leaving exams. If you scan down the years, there's one very noticeable outlier. We were a bunch of little sheets and that was the culmination. Good times. There were so many incidents in my school that it became commonplace. Kid crashed a Lambo into the entrance. Science lab burned down. Ceiling collapsed and many more. I'm a teacher and currently trying to break down a rubber ducky black market ring. I teach high school. I have high schoolers about to graduate and go into college. The same students are buying, selling, and trading rubber ducks. A guy had his pen 15 out in the track team photo in the yearbook. It's debatable, but apparently true. It's a grainy bandwa photo. Ironically, that guy just retired as a career officer in the Navy. He was apparently very well respected. Race riots in the early zeros between Native Americans and Latinos. Fights broke out all over the school. Students throwing soda bottles and food from the top of the quad to students down below, about a 30-foot drop. Students had to be taken to the hospital with injuries. Towards the end of the year, while everyone was at lunch, one special ed kid took another special ed kid, with less cognitive function, into the faculty lounge and sexually and physically abused her. She had bruises and bite marks and sheet. Apparently similar things have happened to her before at past schools. And the guy had committed similar acts too. Instead of actually doing anything about it, his parents, or maybe the police, just kept moving him from school to school. It was really sad, and early on this year, when word got out about what happened and the news started reporting on it, about half the school decided to wear the girl's favorite colors one day and have a protest, demanding justice for her or something. School got cancelled that day. I haven't heard anything about the incident since, but that's the weirdest thing that's happened to me so far. Someone was writing messages on the walls of the boys' bathrooms in human sheet. This went on for months because they were trying to figure out who had been excused from class each time this happened. But that didn't work because it turned out it was two people alternating sheet smearing duties, so the other one would have an alibi. I remember in like year 8 all the guys in middle school got brought together in one room to discuss the fact someone had smeared sheet all over the bathroom walls. That was fun. Our assistant principal was kind of a doucher. To try and humiliate him, we bought a dildo and inscribed it with our school mascot and that if found please return to Mr. Doucher. We then slipped it into the ice machine while in line for lunch. The cacophony was deafening when it was found. A lunchroom worker pulled it out with tongs and held it up and away from her, almost like she was displaying it for all of us to see. A coach who was watching the lunchroom saw the writing, and upon further investigation, he busted up and turned red. Quite the time. He never caught one of us. So Mr. T from Bixby. Okay. F you. Principal had an affair with my AP Chem teacher. The school board came down hard on the teacher, and she was suspended for most of the year, which sucked because none of us passed the test. Principal got a slap on the wrist, though he ended up quitting at the end of the year. After a snowfall, I quickly gathered my squad of friends and made boulder-sized snowballs. Then we placed them so if you looked out from the upper windows it was a big D. Even got 2 teachers to help who just wanted to connect with us. They didn't realize what they had assisted with until the entire teacher faculty poured out from the building like angry wasps. I mean, I don't know if this counts, but one of our prefects got caught drinking in a bar, legally, in regular clothes. I know. How could he? And because of that the school took away his badge, and so in protest all our prefects lined up in front of the principal's office and handed in their badges. It was chaos. A contest of chicken between the school and the student leaders, and in the end the school blinked first and gave everyone back their badges. This did a bit better than I was expecting. In the space of 3 years, my former high school in a very wealthy, white, and rural area churned out the scandals. 1. The 60-year-old pay teacher was arrested for a sexual relationship with a 15-year-old, served 5 years in prison. He was caught physically mailing nude photos of himself to an underage student's house, which the student's parents intercepted. 2. The history teacher was arrested when a cop pulled him and one of his students over. Found drugs in the car and they were both high. Turns out he was supplying coke to students. He had to serve a decent chunk of time. 3. The 40-plus-year-old volleyball coach married one of his players the second she turned 18 and no one said did anything when they were dating when she was 15/16. In middle school, we had some rumors spread around that a certain gym teacher, MRS, J, was peeping on girls undressing. These rumors spread and got pretty vicious. People started saying that MRS, J tried to get girls alone in the locker room and had a type that she'd go after. We had a school-wide assembly where the principal berated the students for spreading these unsubstantiated rumors and how hurtful and disrespectful it was to MRS, J and our teachers. 2 years later, MRS, J was arrested for molesting 3 girls a year alone. Many other former students came out about similar experiences, some dating back 15 plus years prior to her arrest. Edit. Clarification. Edit 2. Stop asking if this was in your state city. I'm not telling you. Someone found an empty lube container in a couch in a classroom that was generally open. They got rid of the couch. A kid also drove a dirt bike through the halls and got arrested. We had a ban on bringing our own bottles to school and could only purchase drinks from the school store because there was an alcohol problem. Kids would come to school with pretty much anything they could get their hands on and would start drinking in first period. One day, before the ban, they did a sweep in first period and had everyone open their water bottles and check what was inside. I think there were over 50 kids caught that day. We also had a problem with opioids. Ambulances were there at least twice a year to get someone that overdosed in the gym. Update. This was public school in South Carolina, US. A little more than a week after the Parkland shooting, our principal suddenly got on the intercom and told us to evacuate the building. We did, and we hadn't gone through proper evacuation procedures, so we all ended up all over the damn town. One kid literally ran all the way home, trying to figure out where we're supposed to go. We all assumed it was a potential bomb threat and got sent home for the day. Over the next week, the school changed their story about 4 times. So us students started freaking the duck out and started trying to figure out what exactly had happened to trigger the evacuation. But 2 things happened that finally made the situation escalate out of control. 1. The principal called us into an assembly and proceeded to blame us for the rumors, as though it was our fault they couldn't get their stories straight. 2. Students finally figured out that what had happened was that someone had accidentally left their sandwich in a locker overnight. Then someone smelled the rotting food, got a teacher, and that teacher panicked and caused the evacuation. I think a total of 7 people in all got fired by the time the dust settled. Boys dean got caught with a girl in his office. She was 17. It's the reason that office now has a window in the door. Our principal's son was mentally ill. One night, they were all gathered in the school office. Son comes in with a grenade in his hand because of family issues. Police were called and only 2 police officers arrived. After police 1 and 2 arrive, some more policemen came by. The late policeman wrongly identified police 1 and shot him, mistakenly thinking he was the mentally ill son with the grenade. Police 1 happens to be a father of 2 children. Those 2 study in our school. Police 1 is dead now because of blood loss and the mentally ill son is now in jail. Those 2 kids get free tuition from the school since they effed up big time. Guy and his girlfriend lure a 10th grader to the school after hours. They are on acid and pretend to be natural born killers and hold her down and stab her 11 times. My friend finds her body opening the window in math class the morning after. This was 25 years ago and she is out of jail and back around the community. The guy is still in jail, I believe. Edit number of times the poor girl was stabbed. Some kids climbed on the roof and a boy sprayed just 1 kiss on the side of the building in big letters cause he was in unrequited love. The school board thought it was a courageous gesture and left it up for years, possibly forever, cause it was up for the entire 6 years I went to school there. We were on an episode of Sally Jesse Raphael as the next Columbine, a disgruntled employee, a teacher, possibly a long-term sub, that was only there for a little while. slipped on a piece of paper on the tile and broke her arm, headed to break up a fight. She told the story under anonymity as broke her arm breaking up a fight, and proceeded to talk about how unsafe and unmonitored the school was. The show sent someone with hidden camera glasses to walk in and show how easy access was for potential shooters. Dude walked all around the school and was never stopped. This is in small town Kentucky near Ft. Knox. When the show aired, they sent the school a copy of the episode and we watched it on the in-school TV system. Afterward, the school installed doors that locked from the outside and funneled all traffic through the front door and installed cameras everywhere. This was 1999 to 2000. I was a freshman. Guy got blown by his GF in the floor of the biology section. Both 16-17. The floor was completely surrounded by glass. Even the top. You could see everything in it from every direction. There was just no place to hide. Our new high-tech library with fancy full glass front was like 5 meters in front of it. So someone eventually saw it. Didn't got into much trouble, though. Since this happened in probably the most liberal area in Germany. Our head, not a hick, of biology just gave them a VIP talk about the bees and birds, and some condoms. We legitimately had 21 Jump Street at my school. 2 undercover cops, a guy with a mohawk and a normally looking girl, went to the high school with us for an entire school year, and at the end of the year arrested over 20 kids on drug-related charges. One of my friends got arrested, 16, for introducing one of the cops to a dealer. Called himself a broker lol. In high school we had a long-term substitute teacher. She gave a student Xanax and had sex with him. He had proof of it in his phone, so she gave another student a gun to go rob him and take his phone to delete the evidence. She got arrested. Update. Yes, I know it was abuse. I wrote it 2 minutes before I went into work, so I wasn't focused on the wording, and whether it was a male or female student I would have worded it the same. After the school closed down, a bunch of students came out saying the English teacher and her husband frequently sexually assaulted students, both male and female. A letter was written to the prosecutor's office and everything. There's been countless stories that have come out about it. Girl got super drunk at a party and someone videoed guys raping her. Spread via Bluetooth. There was a female student in my class that by all accounts was your stereotypical social outcast. She would always appear to be exhausted and never focused on her studies in class. Then during our senior year of high school she disappeared. It wasn't until a few months after graduation that the reason appeared in the local papers. Apparently, she was escorting herself on the other side of the county since she could drive. To which she got caught in a local police sting on prostitution. When the authorities learned of her age, they immediately jumped at the opportunity to make a deal with her. All crimes will appear on her juvenile record, to which would be sealed thereafter. For a complete list of her Johns with an emphasis on those that knew she was underage. Because of my volunteer work in the community, I knew a few of the local police officers who filled me in on some of the details that never made it to the papers. Some of the Johns included various government officials, clergymen, paramedics, various fields of doctors, and lots of teachers from throughout the county. 2 of which worked in our district and definitely knew who she was. At our high school a dude was caught wanking in the back of class multiple times, and then a school nearby had a student kill themselves in the commons on the day of their football matchup versus us. The game was supposed to be at their school, but they moved it to ours because of all the police stuff. We were on an undefeated season and weren't gonna lose, but we all felt really bad about winning. There were a couple of kids from our school that made jokes that the other student killed himself because he was afraid of facing our football team. Needless to say, they were quickly sorted out. This was like a year or 2 after Columbine. One kid that was smart, AP classes, band and overall nerd with a bright future decided to do a dumbass bomb threat. He wrote on a piece of paper "bomb in room" and put it against the window. Ruined his life. Saw him years later and he was working min wage or maybe slightly over. Didn't graduate high school and was working on his GED. Oh, my senior year we had a freshman that knocked up multiple girls. They took him on Maury and he was the father. IDK if this counts, but 2 students at my school made a 6 tape and the video spread like crazy. Everyone watched it and some people would watch it at school with friends like WTF. The teachers had to keep telling students that it was illegal to have the video, and if we got caught sending it to others we'd be in serious trouble. One of the teachers thought she was all that and used to go out clubbing every weekend alongside many of the students from the school 6th form, UK, age 17-18. Suddenly one week she started giving everyone the cold shoulder. Turned out she'd had a screaming fit at the club that weekend when she found her boyfriend snogging one of her students. 7th grader trading 6 for heroin. Not a scandal per se, but it turned out that our all-weather pitch was built on a famine pit. The school was built on the grounds of a famine workhouse. So whoops. But they just put up a monument and continued to use the pitch. Oh, actually, one of the geography teachers locked a student in a cupboard for the duration of his class as punishment for something. And the real scandal is that nothing happened to the teacher. He was truly awful. I had him for 3 years and he used to smoke cigars out the window and play poker with some of the students. I wish I was joking, but it's almost impossible to fire a teacher. Not sure if anyone remembers this on the news about 5 years ago. UK teacher was real life Breaking Bad. Meth lab in the basement claiming it was a friend's. A history teacher was caught pleasuring himself under his desk to a class full of 6th formers. Welsh teacher was selling weed out of her classroom too. Underfunded education, hahaha. In my school, one of the students got kicked out of class 109 times but was still allowed to be in charge of the student newspaper. There was some teacher visiting our school who thought it was a smart plan to educate kids, 15, 16, 17-ish, on drugs. It was actually a smart plan, except for that he took a suitcase with the actual drugs with him. I don't know the full story because I didn't attend that lecture. What I do know though, is that a bag of actual sugar was stolen from that suitcase. There was a whole manhunt going on for the person who had stolen it, but they never found who stole it or the sugar. High school assistant coach fooled around with the goalie on the girls soccer team. Source, was the goalie on the girls soccer team. The phys. Ed. Teacher basketball coach, M. began an affair with the English teacher, F. his first year as coach. She left her husband. He only lasted 1 year. Another English teacher left her husband. The metal shop teacher. For the girls phys. Ed. Teacher, F. They moved in together just down the street from where I lived. An 11th grade student, M. got the algebra teacher pregnant. Mind you, this all happened in the same year. Oh, those gloriously wicked 70s. A geography teacher caught a history teacher banging his wife in the school library. The history teacher was his best man at the wedding. Also, a PE teacher threw a janitor through a door during class. It is regarded as one of the best schools in my country. I guess this is one since it made the regional news. Was that a French teacher had vocabulary test where you would stand by the closed classroom door and he would quiz you on the repeated French vocabulary errors you made. If made the mistake again he would likely underhand toss a volleyball at the back of your head. A student had recorded on their phone and once a parent found out they went straight to the news. I know my mom started freaking out and my older brother said yes he remembers it and it apparently improved vocabulary and grammar. Our high school band teacher had a secret affair with one of the students and it wasn't found out about until the year after she graduated. They spent a lot of energy investigating when exactly their relationship started. A lot of us in band and orchestra were aware something was going on her senior year. But it was a shock to the community when he was put on leave and the news broke. She had also dated his son prior who attended the same school and was in my grade. It was very painful for him. I think they got married. But he's still a predator in my book. Haven't kept up with it since. We've had two major ones. A science teacher was a terrorist from Zimbabwe and a music teacher, female, slept with a 6th former. The first one is a tad more extreme lol. Also I go to a Christian school IA. A girl killed herself, and school tried hiding it. It was actually my fault. When I was 11 I was just known as the quiet kid who was good at drawing but another kid offered me money to make hentai for him and I accepted and eventually I got more customers as he told several other people and eventually it grew into a small underground market of hentai. But word of it got out a little bit too much and eventually someone told the principal and I was caught. The principal of the middle school I attended had his office raided by my hometown's vice squad for selling meth under the guise of parent conferences. Rumor has it when the breacher kicked in the door, the principal had his pants around his ankles, was engaging with himself and had a marital aid where the sun don't shine. We had a guy that would go into the bathrooms and smear his poop all over the walls and jerk off on all of the toilet paper. He'd destroy any bathroom that he went into and we wouldn't be able to use it for a couple of days. Our principal would get on the loudspeakers at school and announce that the poopertrator has struck again and tell us what bathroom not to use. This lasted for about 3 weeks. It was a 6'7" goth of a giant probably weighing 350 plus pounds. He finally got caught in the act and had a chase through the entire school, running through the lunchroom, down to the gym, just knocking anybody over who tried to get in his way. The football coach was finally able to tackle him after he sprinted through the school with it on his hands for 15 plus minutes. Oh so many. There was a race war for a bit between the Hmong students and rednecks to the point school got cancelled one day a fight was going to happen. A match teacher married a former student and athlete he coached soon after she turned 18. A kid drove his car through the wall in the cafeteria. A mysterious fire started and killed all the animals in the animal science classroom. We couldn't wear coats but the classrooms were in the low 60s during the winter. After all the classrooms were using colder towels to trick the thermostat. They let us wear coats. In middle school, we had this older male teacher. He was known for being a photographer in his free time, but there were rumors that he also made some naked pictures of women girls. According to older grades, he once asked a girl in the school if she was down to make some spicy pictures. IDK if this actually happened, but the same teacher was suspended for 2 years, due to personal reasons or SMTH, according to the older students. I had biology with him in 8th grade and the dude was really kind and friendly. Take your pick. The music teacher, BJ Jones, killed himself after being arrested for being a pedo. A kid killed his dad with a hammer. The school ski trip was cancelled after one of the instructors was caught ducking another teacher in a classroom the day before departure. This one made the national press. One of the twins was pregnant at 16. A girl was killed walking home from the rugby club. Lead to a proper footpath being fitted. Catholic high school. Small town Ohio. High school wrestling coach and history teacher, male, secretly nailing students, female, while using peddling sugar to staff and students alike. Basketball coach indicted for embezzling escrow funds from his real estate and title firm for betting in Atlantic City. Moved to CA. High school chem teacher busted. Was major Norcal LSD producer. Meth, but it broke into the news a couple years after I graduated. It was absolutely hilarious. The students all knew about how many kids were on it. We didn't even pretend to keep it secret. But nobody gave it right up until some rich kid OD'd. Several poor redneck kids had been shot. But nobody cared. Then everyone lost their ducking minds. Howling and wailing how could we have known? As if we hadn't been telling them for years. Backstory. There was this kid who I saw get pushed into my lunch table. I yelled and the 2 bullies ran while the teacher took notice. But never met them so I couldn't ID them. Fast forward, I believe it was a basketball or some other male sport but when they ran out of the locker room everyone noticed we were a player short. Someone decides to investigate and discover the same bullied kid crying. Turns out the whole team, which includes the bullies, has sexually assaulted him. Only 2 were sent hauled off but only to jail. Short sentence from the average time even for juvie. We had to forfeit as well and surprisingly they tried to cover that up too even though news stations was there to show off each high school starting game. Surprisingly it worked and everyone forgot and just kept quiet. The gym was called The Rock. Showed up one morning and the R was replaced with a C. This was on a huge gym so it took some time to take down. Good one. When our headmaster who'd pretty much started our private school from scratch 25 years earlier, was arrested for embezzlement. The way they explained it was the red and some disorganization in the paperwork. However our headmaster taught the advanced math class, so there's no way he would mess up the numbers on his paperwork consistently. At least not without actively trying to. Our high school biology teacher was recently arrested for solicitation of a minor. He DM'd her saying that he needed her body. It was super creepy. I walked in on my teacher hardcore making out with the principal. It was disgusting and really traumatized me. I was homeschooled. 2 elementary age kids got in a fight on the school bus. The dad of one went to the Waffle House and shot the other dad. A teacher had an affair with one or more his underage students. Happened twice. 2 different schools. 2 different teachers. When looking at my school's website it referred to Google Maps, where when you clicked on the link you saw 2 huge D's on the roof of the school. What happened was that my school had small pebbles on the roof. Some students climbed up and gently pushed the pebbles aside to form 2 huge pen sizes. Shortly before the school got renovated it was in newspaper with the title D drawing on school building discovered. I have a screenshot of the newspaper article where you can also see the DEs on school. Star football player was caught getting a blowjob from a freshman in his dad's classroom. He was still able to participate in the next game. There was an industrial arts teacher who ran a club for the guys who built sets for school plays. Part of joining the club was an initiation where you had to run down this particular hallway naked. The hallway had doors at both ends so it could be closed off for the initiation and it wouldn't be seen by casual passers-by. The teacher was secretly videotaping these initiations, and eventually someone found out about it. The teacher was definitely fired, but I don't remember if any criminal charges were brought against him. The 3X Teacher of the Year winner at my elementary school got caught putting a camera in the women's faculty bathroom. In high school, our principal was extremely selective with who got punished for violating dress code. If you were a cheerleader or played volleyball, you were immune no matter what you wore. If you were anybody else you'd get punished. After multiple girls were literally ambushed by teachers in the hallway and given suspensions, the school revolted. Everybody started to wear girls' Nike shorts. And I mean everybody, including the football team. It went on for about a week and made local news before the school amended the dress code policy. My senior year of high school, one of the biggest hockey players was dead by a girl he liked to record himself having sex with a cat, to which he did just that. He only got kicked from the hockey team and there were no charges for BCT since his father was a cop who knew how to pull some strings. One of my classmates burned the school down right before winter break our senior year. Didn't really matter to me since I was graduating early anyhow. The finals I'd already taken counted as extra credit. I went to a Catholic school. My 6th grade homeroom teacher was a guy in his late 40s early 50s. Classmates once told me they saw him looking at my ass. The next year we got a letter in the mail saying he was arrested for trying to meet up with an underage girl he was talking to online. Sad part was he was married and had 2 daughters around that age. Few things come to mind. I spent a lot of time in the pupil support center, and one day there was a new kid who was very autistic. I could hear him in the room next to mine, yelling and screaming because he'd been told to do work. After multiple teachers had been summoned to try calm him down, I heard him run through the doors. I left about 10 minutes later and there was a tree outside the PSC, and he'd climbed to the top of it. He was threatening to jump. BTW. He wouldn't die from that height, but he'd break a limb or 4, and half the school had congregated to watch. It was also his last day as he got moved to a special school. Age 13. Another new kid, but he joined my year. Second day, there was an assembly in the sports hall, and he let out a massive fart. Like nuclear. Like echoed around the room. Like stunk out an ungodly radius. He was immediately dubbed a nerd, and could only make friends with nerdy kids. Which is good news for me because 5 years later and we're still best friends. Our woodworking teacher was called Pedo Parry almost exclusively. Tons of rumors that he touched kids, boys and girls. There was even a song about him to the tune of Bob the Builder. Pedo Parry. Can he touch you? Pedo Parry. Yes he can. Worked there the entire time I was there, and nothing came of it. But given the huge amount of stories from him I feel like there should have been an investigation. At least. Someone set chicken nuggets on fire in the microwave and triggered the fire alarm, which meant a fire drill. A couple months earlier I had accidentally burned some Chips Ahoy cookies trying to melt the chocolate chips. This was all in middle school. To this day, every time I see someone from that school they ask me about the time I set the nuggets on fire. Which I never did. Out of all the crap I pulled at that school, including a different microwave fire. The only thing I'm remembered for is the thing I never did. 1. Somebody called in a bomb threat, possibly to avoid a test. SWAT team showed up and everything. 2. Somebody took a writ in the halls or the staircase because our principal only allowed one boy to enter restrooms at a time and he really had to go. Someone burned our school down. We had to finish school in those little trailers that construction companies use as offices in construction sites. We made shirts saying graduated from, school name, trailer park. Some kid who was suspended showed up to school high on coke demanding to be let in, threw a table at a glass door and broke it, then tried to fight a security guard with a fire extinguisher. Our school is super rural and at the peak only had 4 African American students. All of them were very popular, and one of them was in my sister's class. He was an alright healthy individual and one day he was in the gym playing basketball and fainted and died. For a week our school mourned, and teachers the day of just played movies or made us read. The reason why I bring up race is that the student body all wore black power bracelets in remembrance of him during basketball games. Edit. I talked to some of my old high school friends and I got my facts wrong. Another African student was nicknamed Black Power, and the student body all wore black magic bracelets in remembrance. IDK if it's better or worse. 1. Someone got on the intercom and played pumped up kicks for the whole school while his teacher was out of the class. People were calling their parents terrified and we had police called in. 2. Not major but this one guy took a dump on the bathroom floor for $10. Was suspended for 3 days. Then did it again for another $10. 3. It in, one of the middle school teachers had a sexual relationship with a high school student for a while. After they were discovered and on court orders not to see each other he still hooked up with her like 9 more times before he got his sentence. 4. Edited in, some random car pulled up to the smoke pit and pepper sprayed everyone before driving away. Classmate was killed from a single punch in a fist fight. He had asked the assistant principal to leave early to avoid it but was denied. And even though the assistant principal knew that a fight was probably going to happen he did nothing to try to prevent it. Guy kept his job but the school paid out millions. Rest in peace TJ. A pupil committed suicide in our school. People did some digging and it turned out a lad has been bullied heavily that his parents and friends have reported to the teachers and school for a long time. But they failed to act. So when the news crew arrived, the school went into full damage control and threatened kids to not talk to the press otherwise they'll get a detention. While at the same time doing this anti-bully week, putting up posters, and trying to create this illusion that this was a happy and safe school. It was a really weird time. A few months later, another pupil committed suicide. Someone spilled milk behind a shelf on a Friday. On Monday, the carpets really stank. I lived a sheltered life. In 6th grade me and my friends stole an orange from the school cafeteria and hid it behind a shelf and then a teacher found it 5 years later. That was funny. There is a grape sitting on a ledge from 3 years ago at my high school. It has long since turned into a raisin, but it remains untouched since we put it there as freshmen. High school teacher got caught sleeping with his student. Got fired. Went to jail. Got out. Left his wife with whom he had 2 kids. Kept seeing the student. Got hitched. Had another kid with her. And they're still together. Not quite as extreme. But there was a teacher at my HS who got fired for sexual misconduct with a student. Occurring at the school itself. Kicker? The teacher's wife also taught at the school. And she was a former student of his. Felt awful for her. It was a whole thing for a while. 1. A girl gave her boyfriend a BJ right in the middle of the crowded cafeteria. And a teacher noticed and started yelling at them. The dude must have panicked and pushed her head down because she ended up throwing up all over his D. 2. A kid was expelled for masturbating to furry porn in the computer lab. The librarian walked in on him. 3. Somebody somehow managed to sneak in a dismembered deer carcass and scattered various parts around the school hallways. Turn a corner and bam. Severed deer head staring right at you. Back in elementary school, a kid tried to start a fire in the toilets to burn down the school. He was caught by a teacher who walked by and he was caned in front of the whole school as punishment. A female student in my class had a teacher she really didn't like for whatever reason. One day when the teacher entered the classroom, she had her feet on her desk, so he told her something like, "Get your feet down. You're not at the beach." So, that girl took advantage and complained to the school principal that this teacher implied he wanted to see her in a bathing suit. The teacher obviously denied it, but the girl doubled down and got the parents' union involved, and there was a massive outcry about sexually harassing teachers in the school. There was a protest outside the school gate one morning organized by the girl's parents, and I think the local newspaper reported the story. The teacher got fired eventually. The thing is, there were plenty of witnesses to what happened that could say she was full of bullet and the teacher did nothing wrong. But she was one of the popular girls, so everybody kinda decided to not get involved. 1. Pregnant assistant principal was punched in the stomach deliberately. 2. Two APs were caught having sex in an empty room and they were both married. 3. A fight broke out after someone pulled a fire alarm during a pep rally. Multiple APs and school security guards became involved in what must have been a 20-minute brawl, which moved onto a main street then entered the other side of the school. The head principal yelled at everyone on the PA for about 5 minutes after it ended. 4. There were multiple fake shooting threats. I went to middle school on a military base and there was a stretch of time where people kept throwing simulation grenades on campus. Hold up. Why is there a middle school on a military base? My dad was in the military and the bases are also meant for the families of the soldiers and has schools, small shopping centers, bowling alleys, theaters, and whatnot. On the base I was living on, they were doing simulations in a secluded place and I guess one of the soldiers were either storing simulation grenades or just bringing them home and a kid kept throwing them onto campus. Some girl wrote a note in the girls' bathroom that had a bomb threat on it 3 times in the span of a week. The first 2 times the school was evacuated. I think the third was actually a shooting threat, so we had to shelter in place. I have 2. I go to a boarding school that claims to have best school security out there. My first year there, these 3 boys that I was actually friends with snuck off campus by just going over the small white fence and the alarms didn't go off. The school found out real quick they snuck off because they were missing and were making sure they were in their rooms. They were already known to be troublemakers and that's how they knew something was up. Second incident. This super annoying guy who used himself being gay as a personality trait got his head beaten in with a golf club for harassing the dude's roommate. Cops were called and everything. This kid would also moan in the hallways to get people's reactions and then turn around and call people homophobic for telling him to stop moaning because it makes everyone uncomfortable. A kid at my high school overdosed on the bathroom while the rest of the class was watching a video about the dangers of drugs. He was expelled 1 week before graduation. I don't know whatever happened to him. When I was much younger, my grade 7 teacher's assistant was charged and fired for allegedly having sexual with a student. School was grade 7-8. My teacher, who was friends with him, always said he didn't do it. In grade 9, one of the kids in my math and gym classes was found dead, shot multiple times on the side of a road. I knew him and he was involved in a lot of gang stuff and general bad. The school basically didn't even acknowledge it because he dropped out 4 months into grade 9 and died 2 months later, so he technically wasn't a student. I only know about it because I saw it in the news and recognized the kid. A guy I knew kinda, who was my classmate and some reason decided to be a troublemaker, ended up stealing a cart on school campus and riding it. He had to pay building damages from running it into the wall, which ended up with him going to juvenile detention and transferring to a different school district. Lots of kids ended up recording this moment on Instagram. The whole school smelled like weed and some kids had like 3 pounds of weed in a locker. They got tipped off that the principal called the cops and they knew it was them, so they scrambled and hid the weed all over the school. The cops came and they all kept quiet and no one found any weed. It was me, I was the kid with the weed. When I was in my first year of school, we all heard rumors that our French teacher had dropped a purple vibrator out of her bag one day walking into class. From that moment on, all it took was one student to humbuzz before the whole class would erupt sounding like a beehive on crack. I think the poor woman retired a few years after we left. Although I spent 6 years in that school and the joke never wore off. Somebody thought it would be funny to put dog it under a teacher's car, until the teacher punched the student in the face and got suspended. Also, our vice principal's nudes got leaked when he sent them to the cafeteria lady. Right before I got into high school, a high school girl almost got arrested for writing a kill yourself list on the bathroom stall. It included a bunch of girls, including one who was a teen mom and her baby. Many girls were questioned until one finally fessed up. The whole town knew about it. Math teacher had a relationship with a student that got exposed when he tried to have one with her sister 6 years later. Tons of CP on his computer and dragged out of school in the middle of the day by cops. This was in middle school. Kid pulled a knife on another student. It was only a pocket knife, but he threatened the kid with a ducking knife, so he was expelled by 4th period. Happened before school started. Edit. We'll give more details if wanted. I feel like that was an appropriate action tbh. This one girl threatened to slash up my face with an X-Acto knife. I told the guidance counselor and she said it's only an X-Acto knife. Nothing will happen. Guess whose left shoulder and ear got slashed up with an X-Acto knife while my back was turned in the cafeteria? Way back in elementary school, when I was in grade 1 or 2, someone hung a girl up by the back of her shirt on a coat hook in the girls' bathroom. By the time she was found by her best friend, actually, she was non-responsive. She did not survive. I don't know if the person or people who did it were ever caught. I was too young at the time and they weren't going to give us details. By the time I was older, it had just become the incident that you did not talk about. Edit. Changed hanger to hook. Seeing all the posts about kids eating on the floor. A kid used to put his it around the school, like in the corridor, on windowsills, in lockers, etc. It escalated a bit and he would put his it in a box and then hide it for someone to find. Even years after he left, no one knows where he went. Teachers were still finding boxes of it in the back of cupboards, in filing cabinets, etc. 1. 2 guys 2 girls left school on a Monday morning, got drunk and had a foursome. The pictures and videos leaked almost an hour after and it was disgusting. I don't think I have ever seen anything as look at us or tacky. It was vile. 2 teacher was under suspicion of sexting a student and then went to jail for a few days and never came back. 3. A girl vaped into the smoke detector and we had a fire drill in 30-degree weather. Well, for every year I was in high school we had a suicide. So there's that. Also, band director had sex with a student, as did a gym teacher, although that was years before me. 2 years 9s. So whatever the age 15 equivalent is in your country. A girl gave a guy a blowjob on the bus when the year group was being taken back from an excursion in front of everyone. It was filmed. Around 100 plus kids got sent the video to their phones. The girl had to leave the school and move a couple of districts away and was known forever as a slut. She had no social media to trace her and I think now goes by her middle name. My friend brought in vodka mixed with Sunny D and got suspended for a month. Same friend got accused of doing drugs in the bathroom, but that was never confirmed. A guy in my grade was an alcoholic, I guess. Brought whiskey and cola or STH in an unsuspicious bottle to school every day. Basically everyone knew at a certain point. Even the teachers. No one cared though since we were all of legal age to drink by then. Just not at school. And he was actually one of the smarter guys, asking critical questions that made the lessons much more interesting and educational. Smoking weed during recess was super common for some of us. 2. I'm sure the teachers noticed, but a lot of them were hippies themselves. One of our bio teachers was this obvious pothead. His classroom was the most remote. Practically no one ever went there without a good reason. One time some students saw him leave his room and with him a cloud of that dank smell. On retrospect, our school was chill AF. Gosh, I miss those days. 2 teens banged in a bathroom stall and someone took a video of it over the door. Since they were minors and it was technically child porn, cops were called. Sad part was that, from what I've heard, dude was just on his phone while the girl was on his lap. He didn't give her it, and she was one of those girls trying to get into the popular crowd. So she was deaf, doing it for the wrong reasons. She changed schools after that. A year before I started, a kid got a brain aneurysm and died in the field. And after school there has been multiple suicide attempts, with one being successful. During school we had to go into lockdown because an ex-student came in with an axe looking for a specific teacher. High school was whack. My high school was a K-12 and when I got to school one day during my junior year there was a giant yellow bus half blocking the entrance. half over the fence up against a tree. Turns out a middle schooler got a hold of the keys somehow and tried to steal the bus. Poor kid didn't even make it out of the parking lot. My freshman year of high school. Someone called in a bomb threat after second period. So it was around 9 in the morning and the whole school was marched out to sit in the football stadium while we waited for emergency services to investigate. We sat out past when school ended, so around 3 PM. Only to find out that the bomb robot found someone's cell phone vibrating in their locker. The college I go to has a haunted building that was built by a man who had slowly been losing his mind and designed the building to be confusing in order to trap his wife there to kill her. That same college also had its original main building burnt down by protesters or an angry student. This happened in the 70s, I think. But still no one knows who did it till this day. That same college also has had numerous blackface incidents with no punishments, and someone hung up a noose in the dorms. My school has a jogging session at 6 AM every Friday. After jogging, 600 plus students from 3 grades got to change clothes. But the restrooms are really small and can only fit so little. So most of us change in the classrooms. Boys and girls separated, of course. One day it was revealed that some boys had worked together to buy a camera system and recorded videos of the girls changing. What happened to those responsible? Nothing significant. They weren't expelled. Pisses me off how much my middle school cares so much about keeping its image. We got a new principal for 3 years. My middle school and high school are joined. Everyone loved him. He was one of the best things that happened to the school. Then one day he just dropped off the face of the earth. No joke. No one knew what happened to him for a year. Then when my grade graduated, we were told that he passed away and we weren't to tell the younger grades. Guess what happened only a few short weeks later? Freshman year. Got placed on lockdown toward the end of the day, from about 2:30 until 3:30, so only about 10 minutes. After school was supposed to get out, because a house down the street from school was being raided by a SWAT team. Turns out it was a drug den. They didn't tell us why we were being locked down, so a lot of people initially thought it was a shooter. Other than that, the only major thing I can think of is a guy in my class getting caught jacking off in the cafeteria bathroom in our 8th grade year.